Sarah,
Arm.
are you Mexican or are you Mexicant?
I'm Condoleezza Rice.
Yeah, you blew an opportunity to put Liz Cheney on there.
I don't know that reference. I didn't watch that garbage on in prime time.
Hello, hello, Kylo Sierra Alpha. Hello, hello, Hooper 45. Welcome, Winos, to episode 95, Depp vs. Stern 10. Depp versus the United Stern of America. This is when even the power of Depp after Pirates of the Caribbean. Depp made some got very French, got very Polanski, got very Vanessa Paradis. It made some anti-American comments that did not exactly hurt Pirates of the Caribbean. Howard being the chicken hawk, stolen valor, badge bunny, uh, flip flopping phony he is, went after Depp, and then our part two of this is going to be next week, I believe. And no, I know it's going to be, and we're going to go when Howard flip flops against the Bush administration in his huckster attempt to sell Sirius in the last days of terrestrial radio.
Hmm.
And obviously, we're going to fuse Depp into it.
And he had
Uh,
me in his clutches. I was with him the entire time.
oh, I was too. I was too. Um, I'm going to start here with, I don't know, maybe we should. Oh, by the way, I want to ask you, I love that intro. That's Agent Sands from Once Upon a Time in Mexico. That is the third installment to the El Mariachi trilogy from Robert Rodriguez, where Depp steals the movie
Hmm.
like he's Winona Ryder at Barney's in 2001 from Antonio Banderas, and totally recommend. And the ultimate compliment for an actor is when you say, "Oh, I don't really care about the movie, but he is great in it." It is just who cares what the plot is? Just watch Johnny Depp. And there was a term they used in the most of the 2000s. It called Depp charging a movie, where he would be they basically airdrop him into a movie. He'd shoot some stuff for about 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, and just steal the movie from whoever was supposed to be the star. Maybe it's Juliette Binoche in Chocolat or Antonio Banderas in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and they called that Depp charging a movie. And all through the '90s, he'd have little glorified. That wasn't a glory. He was the co-star of the movie. He was not a glorified cameo.
I would say they wanted it to be a cameo just to get people in the theater because I wouldn't have cared to watch that movie
Oh, you don't know
otherwise.
how right you are. That was shot initially as a cameo, and Rodriguez like, this is too good. We got to
Hmm.
expand this part, and then they ran with it.
On a much deeper level, you know how when they film a movie in Mexico, they have to put everybody like in Vaseline and grime them up.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the only one that can pull it off.
Well, his character's interesting because he's playing like a corrupt CIA agent who really does the right thing in the end, and it's basically like combining Nick Fury with Daredevil because he's blind, and then he has all these weird sort of gunfighting skills, and it would be like if he's the head of the CIA branch or whatever the hell this is. Rodriguez doesn't give it. He just throws guns in and weird dialogue. It's almost like this very Tarantino thing with him, and there's a whole, who was the Rodriguez? It was Rose McGowan, right?
Hmm.
Was there some scandal, some love triangle scandal with him?
Not really a love triangle, but what it is, she was mad at Rodriguez. That was her boyfriend for one of her movies. He filmed one of her movies. I don't know. She played some fembot-ish type
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
character.
yeah. I think Amber Heard might be in that.
I don't know. But
Yeah, yeah.
she was mad because apparently he knew at the time what Harvey Weinstein had done to her and he still wanted to work with Weinstein.
Okay, okay.
I think that's how
No,
that
I
went.
think you're right. I think you're right on the money. I say, like I said, hi, Hooper 45, welcome. Carlos Seraf, CB, welcome. Mackie 504, welcome. David, welcome. We just talking about you, David. I was gonna, would you be into doing a Jump Street watch along tomorrow for pre-tape? It's episode 3. I don't know if you're available. I want to throw it at you if you want.
Put him on the spot.
I'm going to put them on the spot. I have to. That's what you got to do to these composers, and they just they just rise to the occasion. What director would you like to see Depp work with that he hasn't worked with before? The very easy answer is Tarantino, but I'm going to say the Russo brothers, Mackie
I
504, that did Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Civil War and the Avengers movies from Cleveland.
I have a very intellectual answer to that,
Okay.
shockingly. Mr. John Melendez. He graduated from NYU. He directed a film. He got
Uh,
an A on it. I think he would be the only one that could bring out the best in Depp these days.
Tired of him. You know who directed One Too Many?
I forget.
Co-star of New York Undercover,
That's right.
Michael Lorenzo. He's one of
Mhm.
4 people on the face of the earth that are half Puerto Rican and half Italian, like Monique and Benicio del Toro, and they're walking West Side Stories, aren't they?
Yes. You're correct, sir. David is available tomorrow. We will
Awesome, David.
you text him.
I'm gonna. I'm gonna. It's episode 3, David. I can't remember if it's the James Brolin episode, Josh Brolin, who was originally he actually lost out to Depp is cast as Hanson, and or the one where they go into the girls' school with Holly Rob, and then
Hmm.
Depp and
I
Deluise of the B story.
I don't remember.
It's one of the two of those.
You surprise me tomorrow.
I want to say it's the private school with Josh Brolin.
Okay.
Here's my take. I think Josh Brolin was in Vancouver, and they said to him, "Josh, we love you. We just don't want you as the lead here. Please hang around. Please hang around. We're going to pay you to hang around Vancouver, and we want you to play prep student, and we'll keep you here, and then you can go back to Babs and your dad." Interestingly enough, Depp was in Hotel, the drama with James Brolin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I have a still of that in one of our background images for StreamYard.
It's funny because he plays a prep school kid who has a super IQ, and his dad's Robert Forster, who's illiterate.
Oh
And it's the
God.
dynamic. And he walks in, he goes, "What are you doing with the kitty reader here?" When he's like looking through the thing, making fun of him being illiterate.
You are one of 4 people that have watched that. One of 4
No.
current Depp fans that have watched that.
It was tough to find. I remember when I first heard about his history of what he had done before Jump Street, I'm like, what hotel? And one day I'm like flipping around. It's one of those things that was like back in the day, it was on like, remember Lifetime wasn't a broads network and they just showed old shows on it?
God, that was so long ago, wasn't it?
It was before they got all estrogen.
Remember when Hulu was just it was completely free and it was like so startup and turnkey that all they showed was like old reruns of Another World, which I was in heaven over, but and that was really about it. And now it's this mega corporation that sucks you dry.
You remember when Amazon was just books?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, I thought
Oh,
I mean I remember someone bought like a video game or something on it. I was like, it's just books. You can't do that. What's going
yeah.
on? What? Then it's TV. It's bizarre how that evolved. I hate using
Speaking
these
of
words.
evolution, we have the story of Howard Stern beginning today on our show. Can't wait. Oh my God.
Didn't JD from the Stern Show direct? Oh, Super Twink. That's right.
Was he in that or did he
Yeah,
direct
he
it?
directed it. The
I
cameos in that are which
blocked
is
those
yeah,
years out. That's
interesting.
when I fell off.
That's exactly when you felt. Well, this is it. I was going to ask you that. Are these the years you felt? Because this is like we're going into. I don't even think we make it to 2004. Maybe the early part of 2004. Is this when you stopped listening on a daily
Um,
basis?
no, it was early Sirius is when I just fell off. I was like, this is what you've been hyping.
Oh, you talk about. Oh, okay. So did you actually subscribe to Sirius in the beginning?
I did at the very beginning, yes.
Jones Zaruni says David Lynch. David Lynch is a friend of Depp's, Jones Rooney, and surprise, surprise. And for some reason, he knows him through Nicolas Cage, and for some reason, that's never happened. David Lynch always comes up on Depp's hip director list of, but they've never worked together. Crazy Robin, always great to see you. Remember when we could just walk into Barnes and know, oh, he's goddamn it, I miss the days of vegging out. And I had a daily ritual that was like meditate. It was TM to me that I would go to Barnes and Noble or Borders books once a week with a
Yeah.
big stack of magazines or whatever book that was out.
We
That
had
I
a
kind of was.
Borders. We had a Borders. I apologize. We had a Borders books that was the hangout, and it's long gone. Now it's a Mexican food mart.
To me, that was the most tragic franchise. What would you call it? Bankruptcy or out of business when that. Look, I mean, obviously the internet killed it, right? I mean, they
Hmm.
killed all that stuff.
I just remember walking in and your options were limitless. The smell, I loved the smell of a Borders with the new books.
Yes, yes.
And they had a great little cafe off to the right, and you could just basically do whatever you want. You could spend the entire day there, and no, not so much.
I love the smell of the old comic book stores too. before
I
they
can't
changed the
handle
paper.
that.
That was a crazy smell. Yeah, you got to be. It's a very specific thing. You got to. But I know exactly what you say. There was a coffee smell in Borders, too, that sort of melded in with the books. And I'm
Mhm.
still a sucker for the physical copy of the book. I
Oh,
really
yeah.
am. I still don't want to read on a tablet or anything like that.
Whenever there's a book I wanna get, I always make sure even if it's an old especially an old book, I always try to I'll even spend an extra 5 or $10 for the first edition hardcover instead of an audiobook.
Yeah, I'm a
Now,
reader. I'm not a
it's
music listener.
it's much easier for me to, listen to an audiobook than sit down and actually crack open the book and read it, but I would just rather have I like seeing them up on my bookshelf in the living
Right.
room.
And so why I brought up Once Upon a Time in Mexico is last night, and I don't have it for this. It's for some other shit. It's for Once Upon a Time in Mexico that we'll have it do on pay-per-view, Patreon. I'm actually tempted to fast forward to just the Depp parts through that movie, which is he's in most of the movie. In that
YouTube
movie,
YouTube has a, edited clip. It's like 10 minutes long. It's just his scenes. It's great.
David, as usual, says something prophetic here, and I used to say this all the. J.D. Harmeyer, remember when Quentin Tarantino came out? He kind of launched this generation of hack wannabe filmmakers that all thought they could do. Kevin Smith did the same thing. They could do what they did somehow. And he writes, David writes, J.D. Harmeyer every Tarantino wannabe that thinks working at blockbusters where
Hmm,
you, quote, meet your heroes in their own life story of being a famous director. One
yeah.
of David, so true in every way. I say this all the time. J.D. Harmeyer is one of the top ruinations of the Stern Show. Anytime him getting airtime is the laziest, dumbest, stupid guy, low hanging fruit, bully radio. I hate every second of him. You're not. Howard's not going to warm me up to him. You're not wearing me down. I will hate him till the day I die. I never got used to it. I don't want Ronnie on the air. It's just a compensation for not having a good, solid, fucking riffing comedian in there. This horrible repartee or lack thereof. Awful in every way. I hate
The
everything about him.
the JD/Medicated Pete era, that was
Yes.
I was out by then. I didn't even listen to the Medicated Pete stuff.
You know who hates JD more than I do?
Young interns that worked at Sirius.
Yeah, yeah. Monique has texts from him, sexual harassment stuff. That's
Gross.
insane. That only his silent partner could save. Casey Armstrong hates his guts as much as
Good.
we do. Hates
Then
his
that
guts.
means Casey, as I've always suspected, is a good egg.
Yeah, he is a good egg, despite all his pathos, and we all have those.
And if he
His
wants to
his
send me nude pics, my inbox is open.
his positives far outweigh his negatives. He has nude pictures of him towel snapping
It's fine.
Buckethead in Western Kentucky in
I'll take the outtakes.
1995.
I'll even take pictures of him current day. I think that's more attractive than back in the day. But I'll even take the outtakes from that gay photo shoot he did.
Yeah, Tonecott 89 has a thing. And I always thought of this as my vision of New England. He writes, when I lived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, there was a place called Beer and Books. Wow. It's a bookstore with a
Jeez.
bar in it. That's such a good idea. How about the guy who started the movie theater idea with alcohol? I used to go like, why don't you have serve
We have
alcohol at a movie?
we have one of those in Salem.
But it didn't happen until like the early 2000s,
Mhm.
I think was the first one that I knew of. Oh, those little drive-in theaters, what you could get away with. I don't remember. I mean, we used to, as a little kid, we went, but God, if they were still around, the damage, I'm sure that was the place to get drunk back in
Mm.
the whatever 70s and some of the 80s. But I always thought of New England as exactly that, the kind of the avant-garde bookstore that's not commercial in a place
Mhm.
like that sounds great. That sounds divine. That sounds like a really cool place. It's
Did you
probably gone, right?
did you really say Divine?
Yeah, Divine Brown, my favorite prostitute.
Oh, okay.
I,
Hey Hugh. How you doing?
My f I'm like, "Oh, is an African American prostitute?" I actually couldn't you see, Paul Bettany doing the same going down the same road? Is there anything better than an embarrassed Brit?
I can't imagine that. I can't picture a humiliated Brit based on their comedy shows that they're used to, watching on a daily basis. They're pretty out
Um,
there.
Mackie is absolutely right. Can you imagine what a
What is
douchey, misanthropic, you know, Asperger's piece of shit JD Harmeyer was as an employee at Blockbuster. You know, the guy who can't engage you for 10 seconds in a decent conversation. Just staring
Mhm.
down and thinking they're just gonna pluck him out of, Warner Brothers is just gonna pluck him out of Blockbuster and give him. He's the worst. God, I hate his guts. Affy, welcome. Bully Radio. That is the term. Schadenfreude Radio, Affy, and Bully Radio. By the way, everybody in the chat, great comments throughout the week on the Radio Gunk chat. I say this all the time, and I will continue to say it. If I could read them all, I would. If I could make that show 6 hours and read, there's nothing worse than a great comment just getting lost in the ether when the moment moves on and you can't circle back to it.
Mhm.
You
May
see that?
I cut in real quick before we get to the good stuff? Please,
Yeah,
speaking of our
sure.
chat, please donate if you can. You are the reason we're here. You are the reason we continue. If you can send us a super chat, a super thanks, a super sticker, that is very much appreciated. Also, please join our Patreon for $2 a month. Almost half of our episodes going forward are probably going to be on Patreon.
It's tough to put a number to that. It
I
depends
know,
what the
but
mood is.
the way it's going, about half of them are over there. Please join us over there. Lots of fun. We're going to have some guests from our chat if they volunteer to join us, like David, who is always great.
Crazy
Also,
Robin's Crazy Robin's gonna sit in on certainly the City of Lies thing we did at the very least. That's
hmm
she's booked for that.
also we have a couple of patrons over there that have been extra generous and have pledged, I guess that's what you call it,
Yeah.
much more than $2 a month. So if those, I think they're about $10 a month, which is, thank you so much.
And what's
I
her
can't
name?
state. I don't know if they want that to be known.
Yes, I'm
Can
gonna
you
say
hold
her
on?
name.
Let me finish, and then you can get to that. We will thank them. But I want them, if they want me, I'm more than happy to send you something from our store, like a mug. You don't have to pay. Just email me. Send me your address if you're comfortable with that. If not, I understand. But if you want that, just email us at thedeppening@gmail.com.
Ida Greenbacks, the Jody Allen of Radio Gunk. That's all I'm going to say. And she's
Yes.
such a phenomenal woman with comments and everything else. She's such a stalwart Radio Gunk fan. She always gives Monique a great compliment and on Instagram. Just a great broad. I think she's a school teacher at some
Mm-hmm.
point. I'm
Wow.
almost positive.
Good for her. Braver than me.
What the hell is it? Oh, so on the Patreon, I found the full Zoss raping Jason Kaplan video, not Howard's take on it. It is the unedited fight in the actual wrap up show with no interruptions and Tim Sabian. It's like 40 minutes long. And I'm going to put that on there for safekeeping. In addition, I just put the Jake Bronstein FHM thing and Fred Norris getting judged by Simon Cowell when he calls him a pub singer, which I absolutely love. Just throwing red meat. I know it's Depp, and I throw some red meat at the Stern fans on there, just cause they like it, just for your entertainment, just because I can, just because I know you like
And
it.
a lot of them are requests. So,
Yeah, the request. I have no problem with that, and it's actually written in the header. Howard's name is in the header,
mm-hmm.
as I think you put that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is www.patreon.com/winoforever. And Hooper wants me to send him my bath water. That is at the $500 tier.
CB goes on Esther. JD Harmeyer set off an anti-theft device at a bookstore due to a Glombox porno D. I didn't realize that. I try to avoid JD stuff, and I certainly know a lot of it just because
Oof.
through osmosis. But I actually don't know that story, CB. I'll have to check into that. G Canada, idiosyncratic is Casey, good guy but strange. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Idiosyncratic is a great Dennis Miller word. G Canada. Something tells me we'll hear more of that. Hashtag Amber's IQ is higher than Arm's. Arm might be a drunk. I'm not a drunk, Affy. I'm a drinking coach. I'm not a drunk. That's the drinking coach because I can manage to be a drinking coach and not be a drunk. I've never been called it. Not with my nephew, and has actually surpassed my brother-in-law in alcohol tolerance, which I thought was the biggest heavyweight there was. my brother-in-law is basically a left-wing Adam Carolla. He has the same like skill set. He can fix anything. He's super quick. He's super just sort of, but he's like a much nicer sort of left-wing Adam Carolla.
Oh God.
And I mean that in the best possible way. I couldn't. He's the Aiden Quinn to my Sam and Benny and June, the man I can never be. We have a movie tavern right down the street from me. I saw Clerks 3 2 weeks ago. God damn it. Is that's the second run theater? I missed that. Remember the second run theater? Sarah, it would be
Mm-hmm.
2, 3, 4, $5, and they'd have stuff just sort of hanging around.
Yeah, I've never found the issue with those. A lot of people don't like them because they have to see the new movie. Yeah, those are great. It's usually a good time. Good food and a good time. Thank you,
Crazy Rob.
David, for the $9.99.
Crazy Robin goes, I never got drunk off the smell of popcorn. We have those in Indianapolis. Oh God damn it. There's some good stuff out there. I'd like this. There's gotta be like a website where they chronicle all the weird movie theaters and stuff like that. These avant-garde theaters with the when I because I used to smuggle in everything in
Of course
theaters.
you
One
did.
time I had a bottle, I had a 40 ounce of Bud, and that was like my go-to for the movie. And I'd smuggle it in, and I watched The Ninth Gate. I hope Lauren Marie's here. And so I I it was so dark in this theater that my foot kicked the thing over and the bottle rolled down the aisle, and it was such an empty theater. You just hear, I mean, there's probably like 40 people in the theater, but you hear that embarrassing sound of the bottle like rolling down the aisle,
Of
and
course
they're
it
trying to
did.
trace it back to me. I always sit like in the second row.
Oh,
I sit as close as I can where I'm not looking at, like where I'm not look because I have such horrible 70-180 vision.
what orifice did you smuggle that in?
I had a big bomber jacket at the time with a huge pocket on the inside. And it was actually very, very close to where Monique lived in Manhattan. It was like 44th and 9th Avenue, in between 8th and 9th, where the old improv was, where David used to perform with Bette Midler in the 70s.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Did David witness Geraldo groping Bette Midler in the bathroom?
At Studio 54?
Yeah.
Yeah, David is how Geraldo met Cece.
Okay.
Hooper G Canada writes, I live in the Florida of Canada. It was 78 here a couple days. Wow, really? He was running the air conditioner. Jesus Christ. Uh, Crazy Robin with a divine brown joke. Concert with no phone. He said, hey, Melvin. Welcome, Melvin. Thanks for all that you do. Smoking cigarettes in bars, books and brews. Is that, nah, the Portsmouth store is the bookstore is in Portsmouth. It is still there. Thank you, Tonecott. If I ever go to New Hampshire, I'm totally going to do that. What an underrated little state that is, right? No one brings up New Hampshire.
I wouldn't know.
Getting into fights, not going to jail, says Melvin. All right, I want to give a special. This is such a weird. I don't know where to start with this. What does this have to do with Depp? I want to say rest in peace, Kevin Conroy, aka the real Batman animated. This guy, to most people that know, he did the voice of Batman in the animated series, and you go, oh, what does this have to do with that? It doesn't have to, but it actually does. There would be no Batman the animated series, Sarah, without
Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton. And who directed the first Batman?
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton. And Depp was up for Dick Grayson. They never did it. They had this thing where Robin's too corny. Burt Ward, the Super Friends Robin. We don't want Robin. Robin, and we don't know how to make him cool. Batman the animated series made him cool. Not only that, Batman the animated series is the first action animated show on what network?
Fox.
Fox. And who created the Fox network?
John Christopher Depp II.
So there'd be no Batman the animated series without Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. That's just one of the many tertiary tie-ins to this. So here's the guy, Kevin Conroy, very sweet guy, a very Juilliard kind of guy. Just like, and I believe he was gay. They never really, no, I really, I like, it was like kind of came out like 5 years ago. It's like, oh, why
Okay.
is this guy single and he's 62 and he's singing,
Oh my god.
opera and stuff. I mean, no, but somebody said it's not done in any kind of like homophobic way. It just came out like you just didn't think of him as gay. I can't explain it. Like it was just like, oh, okay, he's got, and like, okay, there's a little lisp in Bruce Wayne when you watch the oldest episodes of Batman the Animated Series. Um, so I'm gonna read his. They rushed out his eulogy. It was a very big deal. In fact, um, CNN. I mean, many, all the news plate things had it. So I have it here. Kevin Conroy, the man behind the gravelly bass voice of Batman, who popularized the unmistakable growl that separated Bruce Wayne from the Cape Crusader, has died, according to the representative Gary Min. Because it'd have to be a name I can't pronounce. Come on, even Morenu. He was 66. DC Comics has also confirmed the news. Conroy died Thursday shortly after he was diagnosed with cancer.
Hmm.
Morenu said Conroy's work in the role is the basis for every iteration of the Batman popular culture has seen since. He played Wayne, the superheroic alter ego, for years on TV, including the beloved Batman the Animated Series. His influence can be heard in the performances of Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson, and many more who've played the character, but few actors can say they've played Batman quite as often as Conroy. He appeared in more than 400 episodes of TV as the voice, and once the embodiment of the Dark Knight. And I'll just read this briefly. This is his history, his kind of background. From Broadway to Batman. Before he was Batman, Conroy regularly performed the work of the Bard, the graduate of Juilliard's esteemed acting program. Conroy appeared in adaptations of Shakespearean works from Hamlet to King Lear, usually at the Old Globe in San Diego. He appeared on Broadway too in Lolita and Eastern Standard, but it's undoubtedly the Bat for which Conroy is best known. So, um, I'd known this, and I was a huge fan of these shows, and they were just there were shows that this and X-Men were the first shows that did not dumb themselves down for kids. They were written by adults who said, we're not gonna write condescendingly to these kids. And it was kind of written for adults. And so I just followed the continuity of these shows, because this begat the Superman animated series, which begat the Justice League animated series. And these shows, I mean, David would be the ultimate composer, because if you listen to David's composing, it's exactly what Warner Brothers uses for all those things, Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. So during Justice League, I was really, really angry that Aquaman was regulated to guest star, glorified guest star. He wasn't on the main team, and I could not negotiate it with myself. So this is like the earlier days of the internet. I find the message boards where the creators are. Thanks again, David. And I start going nuts. But I said I got banned so many times that I came back again, and I concocted my name would be Wayman Tisdale, and I would pretend to be the real Wayman Tisdale, who is a ex NBA power forward who was also a great jazz musician, believe it or not. He won an Emmy, and he's like the only guy in the history of the world that won an Emmy and a gold medal, which is crazy, or an NCAA, first team and player of the year. No one could do that. That's insane to have to be that talented in both things. So I went on there and and they thought I was him. And I knew everything about Tisdale, and I just went along. But then at the same time, I'm this crazy fan of Aquaman. It just made me, I would drop character a lot of times and just get nuts. And so eventually I just took it too far, and I started to, and they basically wrote me into an episode of Justice League with something I spit at them on a message board. So I told them that I hated the character of Hawkgirl so much that um, I was going to create my own website called IHateHawkgirl.com. And I was going to just craft it, whatever. And so the writer, who's actually passed away, Dwayne McDuffie, was the writer of this episode, and this is the scene in which they wrote me, and by this is on my IMDb and 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 Beth's. So here it is.
Okay.
This is Justice League Unlimited. Batman, Kevin Conroy playing Batman, talks about me on the message board getting banned. This is crazy.
Only you.
Oh, wrong one. Sorry. That was Depp. That was Depp.
Oh,
That was
what
Depp.
did we venture into from
That
your
was Depp.
files there?
Here I go. Here I go. This is me.
Listen. Glad I caught you before you did something stupid.
Excuse me?
Carter Hall.
What about him?
I did some research. His birth name is Joseph Gardner.
You lied.
No. 6 months ago, he had it legally changed to Carter Hall. He's an archaeologist. Currently curator of the Midway City Museum. Had an excellent reputation until about 5 years ago, when he started claiming that aliens landed in ancient Egypt.
He's basically writing me as Hawkman. So here's where I come in, right? This is when he brings me up.
Okay.
Aliens? Well, then he must be a lunatic, because we all know that there's no life on other planets.
There's more.
Here you go.
What?
Our Mr. Hall spends quite a bit of time on the internet.
Dang, lock him up.
He frequents the I Hate Hawk Girl bulletin boards.
That doesn't mean boards. How many are there?
57. Web rings. Unaffiliated sites number in the hundreds.
Forget I asked.
Hall keeps getting banned from them for flaming the anti-Shayera posters.
So he's a fan.
He's a stalker.
So here's me as Wayman Tisdale on the message board.
2004, God.
2004. So read the first line. I confess I actually once considered starting an I Hate Hawk Girl website. So he wrote this is me, into the episode right there. And it was crazy to see that. And I used to get into arguments with all the Hawk Girl fans. The woman who played Hawk Girl on the show is a broad named, really attractive milfy type named Maria Canals. And she was in the episode in Jump Street in season 4 when Hanson and Penhall go to El Salvador. It's like Depp's, as you always say, is 9 toes out the door. And
Mhm.
she plays the sister of Penhall's wife, Marta,
Okay.
in the episode. And that was the voice of Hawk Girl you just heard.
Can I make a observation here?
Sure.
Looking at this screen capture that you have provided us with, from May 30th, 2004 to September 1st, 2004, you had 692 posts on this board.
That's not hard to do. Not when you're on a roll. This is like when the only thing I was going on at this time was this and Stern Fan Network.
Okay. Well,
It's not hard to do.
that's a lot.
But I'm keeping up the Tisdale lie that I'm him. And they believed me. And the only reason they wrote me into that is because they thought I was the real guy. Because I played the part so magnificently that they believed me. Like, who would go on this dumb website to pretend they're Wayman Tisdale?
You.
Yeah, well, it's not like he's a household name, it's like that's the genius of, what's the term when you go on the internet pretending you're someone else? Is there like an actual word for that?
They're going to have to help me out. But
I know, I couldn't figure it out. It should be
you're
so obvious that
just
you're
impersonating.
impersonating somebody, and I just don't know what the. Okay, gonna remove that. But isn't that kind of a wacky little cute nerd story? I call it passion.
That's
More
quite
so
the
than
nerd
nerd.
story.
But to have Batman
That's very endearing.
say your name is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty crazy. Thank you, Tonka. Yes, G Canada, in Simpsons, in Living Color, the WWF, Major League Baseball, obviously the NFL, which is a massive juggernaut, would never have been. And Stephen Cannell confirmed that when I called him once on Dennis Miller's show, that this stuff never would happen if they didn't establish Fox as a top 20 show. In the leadoff, the Ricky Henderson spot at 1987, April 12th. And then, by the way, yeah, and we should also bring up, and I don't have this as a story, but it reminded me of, and somebody on Radio Gunk posted a story about, could have been one of the broads. I think it might have been Shaka Khan or someone. Christina Applegate, Sarah, she has
MS. Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of like, leaned into it and taken it head on, and couldn't wish more. She's such an underrated post Married with Children career. Actually, a fantastic post TV and movie career, Married with Children. Very great delivery. Apparently, she's very nice to everybody on set, much like Depp is. And she was the prom queen of, or homecoming queen, whatever you want to call it, of the Fox network, which Depp would be the king, launching that thing. So
dated Ed O'Neill too, which was weird.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they dated.
Huh.
That was the rumor. I don't
did we
think
just
they've denied it.
not Katie Seagal, it's Christina
No, Katie
Applegate.
Seagal was married.
Ed O'Neill played briefly in the NFL, or he got cut by the Steelers like on the last day of tryouts.
Al Bundy was the first Uncle Rico.
Oh my God! Speaking of Uncle Rico,
Ugh.
one
all
last
right.
thing before we get to our guest, who I see is in the bullpen right now, warming up. Yeah, Barbara. It wasn't. It wasn't. There was nothing stalking Barbara about what I did. It was just like I was just, like just arguing too much on the internet. There's nothing stalky about. They just overused the word stalker at that point. There's nothing about that was even remotely stalky. It was just I was fighting the battle for Aquaman. I was really mad that he wasn't a regular, and I would not drop it. I wouldn't drop it. And I kept, and I knew the creators and the producers were on this website posting, and I just go at it with them. And the only reason they entertained me is because they knew who, especially the guy, Dwayne McDuffie, Wayman Tisdale was. I think he was a huge fan of his, and they humored me because they thought I was a celebrity. And that's what celebrities get away with. Okay, so I want to now, before we get to our guest, I want to show you. So one of the stories that's come out this year is Depp has done a very cornball, lazy cameo, which he should have turned down, which the Johnny Depp of 1994 would have mightily turned down. It does nothing
As
for
a
me.
heterosexual male, that is your opinion.
Yeah, it's my opinion, but this goes for the chat. Artistically, what does a cameo in a Rihanna fashion? What is it, Sarah? Savage X Fenty?
I don't know.
Is
I'm sure
Fenty-
I can't afford it, so
Okay,
whatever.
so this is Johnny Depp in Rihanna's video. Is this on? What is it on Amazon?
I think it premiered, the fashion, whatever this is, appeared or premiered on Amazon.
And they pre-taped it, and their show was live.
Yeah, I think apparently this played in the middle of the fashion show.
Okay.
Oh, I love that music though.
That's the pirate theme.
I know. Get a whiz on the tree. Okay.
Lily Singh.
Mm-hmm. So,
Go ahead,
yeah, I
Sarah,
think that's
sorry.
about it. So, gotta say, absolutely would 6 days to Sunday, of
You
course.
broads.
We
You
all know that.
broads.
I
You
don't like the
broads.
design of these little jammies she made. I don't know why you have a wallet chain when you're wearing jammies. The sewing is horrific on that robe. There's puckering seams galore. But yes, I absolutely would, and I would strip him bare in 2 seconds.
My brain flatlines when I watch that and I think about fashion. I didn't notice a goddamn thing he was wearing. You're not selling any. No, you're not. I mean, what are we doing with that? What's the point?
I like the
What
color.
are we selling clothes? Who's supposed to buy that?
I like the color. I don't like the execution or design.
The execution is him. Kevin Smith had this great joke about he was talking about Lord of the Rings. He said the movie is 3 hours and 2 hours and 40 minutes is walking through fields.
Yeah.
That's really what that was. What is the goal? It was supposed to. It's a fashion. You ever think people
It's
in fashion
putting a
don't
big
actually
name.
care about selling clothes? They're just
It's-
showing off.
Well, it's a
I
name.
hate fashion. I kind of hate it.
Well, good for you. But it's a
It's the
name.
dumbest
Oh my
thing. It is the
God.
most mindless thing. And I can't believe he resorted to that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It is Rihanna getting attention for her fashion, her lingerie line, whatever it is. This, I think, just was like an intermission video or it played in the background of a runway show. I don't know for sure. But he's wearing her design. They stopped filming right when he got to the tree. Maybe he was about to take a whiz, and maybe we'll see that in the unedited version someday. But you know what? Whatever.
No, give me whatever. You
It's
gotta
a
have.
good statement because she obviously is, is probably the most well-known victim of abuse, domestic
Right, with
violence
Chris,
in the
what has it been
last
confirmed?
15
It's a
years.
Chris Brown nod. Has it been confirmed at
I
all that
don't
that's
know.
supposed to be some ironic
I don't
Chris
know, but
Brown thing?
apparently she believed Johnny Depp that he was innocent of what he was being accused of, so she brought him in to be a part of her fashion show. If
And
in
he
her
has to
mind,
do it.
if in her mind there was any doubt that he would be guilty after the beating she took, do you think she would ever put him in her show?
No.
No.
But what does it do for him artistically? What are we
I don't
doing here,
know.
Grace?
Maybe he was being nice and he said yes.
I think it is, and it's. I haven't liked anything he's done since the trial. I
Well,
haven't
it's not
agreed with
about you.
one decision. When do I get to take over these decisions? I haven't agreed. It's all just mindless, scatological, whatever is thrown. That's the opposite of what made us
As
fans.
soon as he hires us, me to style him and you to take over his career, as soon as we are hired, then we can have a say. But
Do you know
until
how
then,
fast Tracy Jacobs would have turned that down?
oh, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Oh, she would have. She would have. And did he get paid for this?
I have no idea.
You know what's crazy? I was watching one of my, and this is what I think Monique should do. I think to increase the Radio Gunk brand, I think people would love that she'd do a walk around Manhattan video where she goes from, I've been pitching this for years, where she goes to every Stern landmark and tells you where Benji lives, where Fred lives, where Robin lives, shows you the block. If not go inside, Nobu, shit like that. It would be great.
I don't know if she should go to the places they live. I don't know how legal that is, or if they
Just
can.
walk outside. It's on the street. Just, hey, that's where Benji lives.
I don't know, but yeah,
Fuck
the
them and their
public
anonymity. I
landmarks.
could care less. I
Well,
want
they
them all
probably
exposed.
care, and she can
Fuck
get in trouble.
them. NA John Session 2004 Finsta. Wow. Finsta. The guy used Finsta. Anyway, Arm is guilty. Too much to post. Yeah, John Walsh. Thank you, Barbara DeRush. That's a good call by you. John Walsh, America's Most Wanted, followed 21 Jump Street in between Jump Street and Married with Children.
Hmm.
We had America's Most Wanted, which ran for a very long time. That John Walsh lost a son to a kidnapping death, right? He got
Adam. Yep.
Adam, right, and he was like a real deal, like that's the origin of a superhero when that happens, and that guy is the real deal. He's not some TV poser.
No. You have a
David,
guest?
David says, "I love Applegate and don't tell mom the babysitter's dead." Melvin,
I saw that in the
Batgirl sort of.
theater.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. I'm
You
that
know
old.
the tag mark line from that show is when what's his name? Oh God, you'll remember the Jesus, the actors, and he actually was on Jump Street once. He throws dishes
Coogan.
in there and he goes, yeah, Keith Coogan goes,
Hmm.
the dishes are done, man.
I
Instead of
cringed even
washing,
at that young of
yeah,
an age. I cringed at that.
he throws the dishes in the. I thought that was a pretty funny bit though. He throws the dishes in the air and shoots him.
See, my
Batgirl,
problem is my brain back then as a child. I was like, who's gonna clean that up?
did you really say that?
I have such anxiety about a clean home. Yes, I did say that.
Your mom's a clean freak too, right?
My mother drilled that into my head.
I mean, there's a way to do it, and there's a way to be over the top with it, where you want to kind of enjoy what you clean. If you clean all the time, then you can't really bask in your achievement. It's like cutting the grass every day. No one does that.
What? I want to
Only
live in a
only
clean
guineas,
home every day.
only guineas do that to make guinea lines. As my brother-in-law so fun said, that was one of the best lines I ever heard. The lines when you see after you cut the grass called guinea lines. Batgirl slid her fingers under Bateman's utility belt and pulled herself close against.
That would be
Oh, this is
Batman.
Melvin Ring. She could feel the heat radiating between the pleather suits as well as Bateman's pulsating. And he puts a continue. Back in '86, I could throw a pigskin a quarter mile, says Hooper. I believe that. Bad Moms with Applegate. Wasn't that a bunch of sequels? They were very successful. David Faustino with a streaming show on Crackle called Starving was pretty funny and parodies failed his career. The guy who played Parker Lewis was it Corin Nemec tone? I like that show. Parker Lewis. That followed Jump Street. It was never on at the same time. That's one of Sarah's favorite show too.
No, I hated that show.
The guy Billy Jane who was in that show was on Jump Street once in the first season. You know that could be the next episode. The auto mechanic shop,
Okay,
the
that's
car
fine.
stealing.
I think you're right. I think
That
you're
could be
right.
the next. That could be the next
That's
one.
fine. Vita says the entire fashion show is pre-taped, many actors, models, and singers, lots of choreography. Yep, that seems about right.
That's your favorite book too, choreography.
It's a good book.
Does he? Again, he doesn't reveal any of the pedophiles.
Not
Right? Just a
really.
lot of like
He gives a lot
hollow.
of very dark stories about Corey Haim and his the oh my goodness. Basically some very sexually descriptive stories about Corey Haim and other men.
Mackie is a good point. Ed O'Neill's badass in jujitsu. I heard that too, Mackie. That's exact. I can't believe you know that. I saw that somewhere, and I was somewhat surprised, but I shouldn't. I don't know why I should be. I could see the bulging baby arms pants. Says Crazy Robin. David Faustino was on Howard a bunch. Yeah, I remember that too. That was one of my. How you know that, David? It's 4 years old. I have no idea how you know that. It doesn't line up at all that you would have seen him on Howard's show in the 90s. That was one of my first. Impossible. Parker Lewis can't lose. Tone caught. All right, so we got a surprise for everybody. Jesus Christ. How do you put this guy, Sarah? Hashtag Amber's IQ is higher than arms. Hashtag husband unite from the Weapon X program. Logan himself. G Canada Wolverine. G Canada, welcome, sir.
Good evening. Good
All
evening,
right.
Miss Sarah.
How does everybody sound? How does G Canada sound? It sounds good to me. It's a little tinny dog, but I think it sounds good enough.
Did you say
Tinny.
tinny dog?
Yeah. G Canada, are you on a phone or are you on a computer?
Computer with a good set of headphones. I can change the headphones though if you want me
You
to.
sound good.
I think it's fine. It's fine.
I think it's fine. Well, let's see what the chat says. I think you're good.
Oh, well, that sucks.
That's a weird sound though when you go. G Canada, do you have an air conditioner in the background?
I don't know what you're talking about whatsoever.
It was like a little. I hear that's the first of boat. Everybody, don't get on them. Don't get on them.
Is this better?
What do you think, Sarah?
I just switched headphones.
There's a little bit of like a static in the background.
Fuck, I got no clue, man. Do you want me to go out and try and come back in?
Go out, come back in, and we'll see how it goes. It's okay. It's okay. It's not that bad. We'll try to fight.
All right, I'll try it. Sorry, man.
Thank you. Yeah, that's okay. I like the God, what's it from Growing Pain? Alan Thicke, a boat. You get it immediately. You got it twice.
Maybe G Canada is an astronaut. He was in space.
We before he comes on, we actually we would talk about oil. Rodney also wants. Could you imagine putting them on the same show?
No, I don't know that would be good.
We're thinking we're going to have Rodney on the follow up to this. So the follow up to this is going to be when Howard flip flops and becomes Mr. Anti Bush, and he's selling Sirius, and he goes into 2004 and the Kerry administration and the whole FCC and everything, you know, and Michael Powell, and they're going to cancel him. So that's the flip flop, and that's going to be. It's just too much for one show. It's way too much. I got a lot of stuff from Depp's early with just the early times with Howard. I think it spans from 99 to 2003 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara DeRushka. Affy says Rihanna's company was accused of child labor law problem. I believe you, Affy. Affy usually has his shit together with intel like that. Mr. My Baby, don't let it disappoint you. Crazy Robin says, long story. Chris and Ron Fenty. Is Fenty a fashion company, Sarah? What is that? I know Fendi. Is that's a fashion company?
I see. I know the basics. I don't know that. Fenty? Probably.
Melvin sleeps with a wallet chain. There's something really funny about that. I don't sleeping with a scarf or sleeping with a wallet chain. I don't know which one is funnier. Didn't Henry notice have something to do with Adam Walsh's kid? I don't know, Mackie. I gotta brush up
Otis was
on
the
that.
name of the killer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Who's Henry?
Henry, I think it was a team effort on that
Okay.
one, so Henry might be the other person.
I always thought it would be great to have John Walsh guest star on 21 Jump Street and do a missing kid crossover with him. Wouldn't that be great? Does it? You could totally. I mean, that fits in with
Sure.
the season 2 episode when Morty Seinfeld comes back as the grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
It was a missing teen episode. Vita Simpson, welcome back. The entire fashion show was
Yep.
pre-taped. Many actors, the model, and the singer, lots of choreography. I knew it was pre-taped, Vita, but as a longtime Depp head, which I'm assuming you are, does it do anything for you artistically? I mean, that's just the typical. It's right out of Sauvage, right? It's the same Sauvage walk he had. He's like walking on a cloud. He's walking on a Sweetser cloud, walking on an Eastern Colombian cloud. And Sarah, you just think you just want to jerk off to him. Does it do anything for you? Fashion runs the world. I'm not my world, Melvin. And don't tell me what to wear. Don't tell me. Who are you to tell me what to wear? Who are you? Who are you, Fruit Basket in Chelsea, to tell me what to? I'll decide what I want to wear, when I want to wear it. You don't tell me what. Fashion is so arbitrary. It's so mindless and stupid. I'll create my own fashion. You do not. There's a lot of things you can't control in this life. You don't get to tell me what to wear. You just don't. Right, Sarah? Am I right?
No, I enjoy the fashions. I am a woman. I enjoy the fashions. Many men enjoy the fashions. I also enjoy real estate porn. I know you can't handle that
I
either.
like
So.
superhero costumes. I could talk about that. I could talk about sports uniforms. That's it. That's as far as my fashion will go.
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball hats, NBA jerseys, NHL jerseys, NFL jerseys. That's about it. That's as far as I'll go.
Is our guest back waiting?
It does sound like G Canada.
I'm here.
Doug Hooper says you sound like Doug McKenzie.
Oh, fuck, it's that bad?
No. You sound good. We're gonna keep you on. Obviously, we're lucky to have. Thank you for joining us, G Canada, and thank you for all your endless, effortless comedic material in the comments. And I believe can we out your fourth wall? So you called in on the Radio Gunk call-in show, right?
I've called in a bunch of times on Radio Gunk call-in show, yeah.
And what were the characters you played?
Oh man, one time I was let's see. It was like East LA limousine service calling for John, stuttering John about his failed drug test, and we had to fire him. Another one was it was always after stuttering John started fucking with Monique, right? So then I started with that one. I did the what was it, LA County School Board calling looking for John.
Yeah.
Another one was Lyft or Uber calling for John. They sent him 2 checks for 78 cents and he cashed them both and they wanted one back. A bunch of them. I don't remember the rest of them, but those are some of them for sure.
Mackie wants you to do, I know you're going to get a Mackenzie brother line from Strange Brew if you know one.
Man. I watched those shows 5,000 years ago and I was, wasted when I watched them. I don't remember shit like that.
You are the Fred Van Vliet of the Deppening and Radio Gunk, G Canada, lest anybody think otherwise. Basketball sports. Go ahead, man.
I wanted to say thanks to you guys, you and Sarah and everybody at Gunk too. You guys give us so much entertainment, it's not even funny, right? And we all really appreciate it. It's hilarious.
We want to thank you. We want to thank you because the ultimate compliment, especially the Deppening, you're not even into this. And you hang out with us and crack wise and be contrarian and Heard's husband unite. And we don't think it's we really think you love Amber Heard. Amber's IQ is truly higher than Arm's. Heard husbands unite. It's like my favorite hashtag in all of Deppland on Twitter. But just the fact that you hang out with us in something you're not truly into is the ultimate compliment.
Well, when I'm home in the afternoons and that, and the trial was on, so I just thought I'd throw it on and listen to you. And so many whack jobs were so into, I didn't know shit about either one of them. I know who Johnny Depp is, obviously. I know who Amber Heard is, but I really didn't know anything about it before then. I don't know much about celebrities, period. Like, I'm totally out of it when it comes to that stuff. I just don't care, especially about their personal lives and whatnot. And when you see nutso people that really want to get into, they're so into Johnny, they're behind him 100%, and anybody who isn't is an asshole, and they get into it so much. Like, you don't know Johnny, you don't know Amber, they don't give a shit about you. They really don't. Like, they don't care. I know you guys are trying to do a show and you're creating content, entertainment for people, and that's great, right? But for these people like the Deptford wives and that, they're all fucking nut jobs. Like, I'm sorry, but they're crazy.
Your exchange with them on the Jeff Beck Sirius show with Depp was the funniest thing ever. That was such a great little Tate-a-Tate. But you don't think? I mean, I get pushback all the time. I'm not obsequious on here. I'm constantly calling him out on bad artistic choices. You cannot lump me in with that sycophant. You can't.
Oh, I never have. I've never lumped you into that group. You're not a Johnny ass licker. There's no doubt about it. You know what I mean?
I know more about him than any of them do. I saw The Astronaut's Wife 10 times in the late 90s. Who can say that?
And
I have
dude,
way more of a pedigree.
You have so much information on these people. It's fucking disturbing.
I agree with that.
I don't know where you get it from, where you find the time to learn from them or anything like I have no idea. And I just don't get it, how you have this much information floating around in your head. Maybe
we talked about this in the beginning of this. If you tune in later, Crazy Robin brought up bookstores, I think. And I used to spend all the 90s, like once a week at least, maybe twice tops. I'd go to a bookstore and like transcendental meditate, read 20 magazines and books and just take it all in. That was a real ritual. If someone who's depressed, that was something that was really an oasis for me. No Gallagher brother, pun intended.
I mean, and I don't know how old you are exactly, but if you were doing this, in the early 90s, in the late 90s, going to the bookstores?
I was a fan. Oh, the bookstore thing. Yeah, I'd say my ritual started, 1991, something like that, early 90s.
So you're around the same age I am then, right? Like, you're cruising around 50, obviously. Yeah. And I mean, you told me before, and I don't know if you were serious, but you said you never had a beer till you were 21?
Yeah. No, I drank in high school. I had like a couple of drinking trysts in high school. It didn't go that well. And then I got very, very fitness conscious, and I started to become this crazy distance runner just because for the endorphins, just because I couldn't medicate enough, and I needed the endorphins to just feel good. And drinking didn't go with that because it was a lot of just weird hours. And then I drank at 21, and I learned how to do it correctly and got really good. And became the drinking coach now.
See, and that's another thing I don't get about people today. Like, when I was 16, man, I was out in bars already. Like, and not just in Canada, but back then, bars in Canada closed at 1:00 at night. So you'd head to the border, which was only 10 minutes away. You'd hop into New York State after the bar closed here, and you'd be in the bar over there till 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was 16 years old, right? So, I mean, I never had any time to go to the bookstores back then, that's for sure. I was always doing something. But, I look at my nieces and nephews and stuff, and it's just so odd. They'll sit at home on a Saturday night with their parents. Yeah. Like, I find that fucking weird, man. I would have never done that at that age, right? Like, it's changing now.
Kids are closer with their parents. They have more commonality. There's more reasons to stay inside. They're helicopter parents, and I can't blame. I can't say I would be any different if I had the technology kids have today. I honestly think I'd be as agoraphobic as they come. They have way too much at their finger. Just the internet. Just to have that as a kid. Could you imagine having a smartphone in a high school? The cheating you could do.
Yeah, I couldn't have. I don't know. I couldn't have dealt with it back then, but it just seems like I wish they would get out and do a little more with their lives instead of sitting on that thing, right?
Definitely. I can't
You know.
judge them because I don't think I'd be any different. I think I'd be doing what they. I stayed in as much as I could with the crappy video games with Sega Genesis and then Nintendo before that and Super Nintendo. I stayed, but I had a decent balance. But I honestly can't judge them. I think I'd be doing what they were doing if I had the technology they did. Just the NBA ticket, the league pass, forget it.
And see, you have this ridiculous amount of knowledge now that none of us have because of that, right? You
Yeah, but I
sat
mean,
down and read
I
your
don't think
20
it's useless
magazines.
knowledge. I don't think it's useless knowledge. Is what I'm passionate about. If you
Oh, I
can't,
never said useless. I
no,
just said
I
knowledge.
know you didn't. I know you didn't. G Canada's calling from an igloo, says Hooper 45. That's
It
pretty
sounds
cool.
that bad, Hooper, really?
No, it's fine. It's not that bad.
Like, shit, I put a pair of $500 headphones on, hoping it would sound good, but,
That's Canadian money.
Arm.
Yeah, just like $3 American now, so.
He's fine, but turn him down just a little bit.
Okay.
Like when I was coming in, there's a thing that says press
How's
this to get rid of the echo or something. Should I have hit that?
You could do that. Let's see if it helps. I mean, it can't hurt. Sometimes it
Oh
doesn't do
God,
shit.
it's not bad, eh?
Thank you, David. Herculean efforts.
Settings.
No, sometimes it's good because it's like you like
echo
a different
cancellation.
sound.
How's that?
Finally. NA writes, finally, G Canada, the voice of reason.
Is this any better? I tried
Little
stereo.
A little bit, Sarah?
No, Arm, on your settings, turn him
Yeah, I'm
down
looking
just
at
a little.
I did.
Okay.
You want him down to 0. I'm turning him
Okay.
down where he's still.
Do what you want.
Okay. Amber's IQ is higher than Arm's. I'm going to turn him down to 60.
I'm loud, You're
Echo
probably
cancel it. How about now?
Sure. Is that
Any
better?
different?
Yeah, I think so. The chat will have to let me know.
I'm okay with it.
Sorry, guys.
You just got to
No,
adjust.
okay.
Okay, that's okay.
Like I've never even played a video game online before, so this is all new to me, right? Like I really haven't. I worked for years outside of the house, so I never used a computer for work or anything like that. Like I'm technologically as illiterate as it gets for a 50-year-old.
You're doing fine.
Sarah taught me the G spot of the internet, which is the Control F button, which is the ultimate search button, which I believe is sort of the
Wow.
the multi-orgasmic G spot of
You were the
internet
last
search button.
person to learn that.
I got
I don't
taught
think
that.
so.
I got taught that at 16 by a 35-year-old married lady, but I don't think that's the same thing that we're talking about.
Classic G Canada. Melvin writes, G Minutia, how do you order eggs, butter, toast, type of reference, bacon, eggs? Who's that for? Sometimes I tap on something. And Mackie says, G Canada, you're so right about the kids today. Jesus, staying home. It's crazy. Who needs fresh air when there's internet porn, says Affy. G Canada's calling the Zamboni room at the sneak. Here comes all the Canadian jokes you could want from Hooper. I mean, this has got to be his
Nice.
5th one with the Zamboni reference. That's good.
G Canada works in the maple forest tapping trees. I told you, Hooper, it's baby seal clubbing season. We do maple tapping next month. I just got home from a long day of clubbing the baby seals to death.
I got a baby seal you can club, pal.
Oh God.
Barbara DeRush goes, Babs DeRush says, I'm so glad I didn't have a cell phone when I was young. I didn't need my mother to know where it was. Barbara, that's great, Babs. My father, who passed away in 2013 or 14, refused to get a cell phone when they became very mainstream because he did not want my mother knowing where he was.
Yeah, I can understand that.
He didn't want her having if he played golf every Tuesday at Timber Point in East Islip, where Boomer Esiason's from, and he just didn't want her. He knew that she would abuse it, and he just held out. It was actually a really good. I agree with that. If you could not get one, don't get one. If you can handle it. He didn't want to be accountable.
Let's get to the Stern stuff.
Hey, Liz Cheney, chill out. We're talking to G Canada.
We have a request to get started.
Oh, no, I'm scared of women. Like, do whatever Sarah says, because I don't want to get in trouble here.
Okay. So, G Canada, I briefed you on that. Again, thanks for joining us. It is a pleasure to have you, sir, and hopefully you can come back. Who's Doug Denslow. Welcome, sir. Oh, my Doug Denslow over here. We're going to get to it, Doug. I promise you right now. So this is the story of when Depp did Howard's show, and Howard's kissing his ass, and the flip-flopping from it, and the 9 and for Veterans Day, sort of the 9/11 armchair warrior, stolen valor, badge bunny thing that Howard does, and then the flip-flopping he does when he has to hawk Sirius, and he turns to the Kerry administration because he doesn't want to be, if he's taken off terrestrial, he can't promote Sirius. I think he knew about the Sirius deal 6 to 8 months before it even happened. Sarah, you with me on that?
Yeah, I agree.
I think Bucknell apprised him of the satellite move 6 to 8 months before it happened, and he spent the entire year of 2004 with an infomercial promoting it. He didn't make the announcement until the fall of 2004. But the reason I talked about this briefly on Gunk, that the message board, the Howard Stern bulletin boards were used because he thought he was going to get kicked off the air, and he would have no way to hawk Sirius. So that was the way to get the message out to promote Sirius. And once he signed, he didn't need it anymore. So he killed the message board because he couldn't take the transparent negativity, the transparency and negativity. So he killed he killed the message board because he can't deal with anything, honesty and the whatever doxing was going on. That's my take on him. So cut back to the early days, and this is Depp. Now, you know what? Let's start with when I first hear Depp come up out of Howard's mouth in a weird setting. This is the MTV Awards where Depp does the MTV Awards. I think some of the people saw it. And backstage, Depp blows off the show. But he doesn't blow the show off specifically. He, Trent Reznor, and Prince, and Regis, oddly, who's in Howard's favor, tells everybody, I'm not going to do press. We're not doing press. So that word gets around to the Stern show, and of course, they can't handle it, and they start bashing him.
Will come in?
Well, it's a little early.
No. The prospects are good though.
The prospects are great.
Yeah, because entertainment.
Affy, G Canada, Affy wants to know if you're wrestling a moose in the background.
Man,
I've
got no idea. I've got no idea. There's nothing going on here. I'm going to switch my headphones again.
Do if you would. Let's see if there's a difference.
Is that any better?
Are you plugged into the USB port or is that into a phone?
I just plugged it into the actual headphone port on my laptop.
Okay.
It was plugged. It was plugged into the USB for my old headphones, and now this one's into the actual microphone port. So I don't know. I don't have anything going on in the background, man. But if you want me to go, like I can.
No. Let's see. We'll try to work through it.
Is it easy to mute?
I can mute. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say mute. That's what I do. I do it constantly.
Okay. God, there's no shortage of Canadian jokes in that chat. I love Canada, by the way. I love Alpha Flight. I love Phil Hartman.
Tonight's already out on the red carpet getting guests.
And we got a whole list.
Yeah, should have asked to be on the red carpet.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Didn't ask me.
Weren't you in that meeting when you guys said no?
He was busy picking out his dress. Well, anyway, thank you, Joe.
But wait a minute, didn't we get another list of the people who were not doing press tonight?
Yeah, there are people who are not doing it. Regis Philbin and the artist formerly known as Prince.
And two others.
Why?
9 Inch Nails.
Here's the list of people who will not do press, definitely. And not just for us, but for everyone.
Okay.
The artist.
Yeah, that's Prince.
I just wish I could see him. I go, hey, Prince, come over here, you big pussy. Your name is Prince.
Hey, you midget.
Come over here, you little midget. The artist and Regis. Regis, why doesn't Regis want to do press?
I mean, he's got to get up early. He's got
Is that it?
Lee. He's got problems.
All right. Yeah, she won't put up.
Howard is living in Regis's building at this time, which is directly across from ABC, the Millennium Towers.
Mm-hmm.
He is just broken up with Allison, and he's pretending he doesn't live in Regis's building, I should say. Rodney says, your best friend Rodney,
Oh God.
G Canada says to you, is Jazumpa putting together an IKEA desk or what? That's pretty good, Rodney.
G Simpia.
G Simpia?
Oh God, yeah, that's the guy who freaked out because he thought I really loved Amber and everything.
We were gonna put you on the same time. We decided we're gonna have him on next time. It was just
yeah.
I don't know. It's all sick. You're a really good guy, and so is Rodney. And I'm sure it would work out eventually. I'm sure you'd become fast friends. We could broker that friendship, but you just didn't feel like risking it tonight.
He's a little too into it for me, so
He's
whatever.
very passionate about his passion.
Apparently.
On a bra.
That's true.
By the way, you might put on a bra with that outfit, Joe. Your nipples are protruding. Notice Joe is doing press, but the artist and Regis won't do press. The artist, Johnny Depp, Regis Philbin, and 9 Inch Nails. Trent Reznor will not do press.
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp doesn't even have a movie career, does he?
He's got a new
Unfortunately,
movie.
he does have a movie career.
Except
I don't know how does he
every
keep
movie
on
he
going?
does never makes money. It's a horrible movie.
The astronaut's wife.
horrible.
He sleeps through it.
You saw it?
It's one of the worst movies I've seen this year.
Yeah.
Okay, you're Depp, right? This word gets back to you. They're doing this to you. Why on earth would you ever do the show?
Never
Could you say
would I
anything
ever.
worse than that?
Never
by the
would
way,
I ever.
He's promoting Sleepy Hollow here, which is the first movie that actually makes 9 figures internationally. That's the first time he had a certifiable hit.
So did
that's
the
what he's there to
astronaut's
promote.
wife come out right before Sleepy Hollow?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
There's a little string of weird, Ninth Gate and Astronaut's Wife. Blow comes out after Sleepy Hollow.
Okay. So they're gonna love him again very soon.
By the way, I found the George Young, Boston George documentary. It's a 5-part series, I think. It is phenomenal. It is so effing good. If you're into Blow and George Young and that whole, I know NA, he brings up NA, Sarah, remember that? Did you see? You had? I
No.
had you watch the first part. He
I don't
brought up.
remember
Yeah, he brought up that he and NA were smuggling in Arizona for a brief time
that. Okay.
in the 90s when he got out. NA, by the way, G Canada, feels like your microphone is not.
That movie was great. Blow was a great movie. I gotta admit.
Thank you. You know how that got going? Dennis Leary. This is the knowledge that you love so much. Dennis Leary read the book by Bruce Porter, who is actually a professor at Columbia, and he simply did this. He read the book, loved the book, passed it on to Ted Demme, who's a filmmaker, and he's done a lot of good movies, Life and Monument Avenue, and what's the thing with Beautiful Girls. And Ted Demme had the clout. He was an MTV filmmaker as well. I think he did Who's the Man with Dr. Dre and Ed Lover, and then Dennis Leary got producer status on it. They wanted Dennis Leary to play George Young, and when you look at George Young, you'll see why. That's a pretty good fit. That would be fine, and he wouldn't have to do much. And then the studio's like, no. Dennis Leary is a C-lister, B-lister. We need something else. And then Ted Demme came up with Depp, and that's how that happened. That's how he became. And this thing is so good. I can't recommend it enough. It's streaming on some weird things. It's on the Roku streaming thing, and what else, Sarah? Is it on?
I think that was it.
Just obscure. The world has enough streaming services. How much are we going to spend on another streaming service? NBC has what, 10 of them now? CBS comes out with another one at ESPN Plus, and their stupid attempt to get you to buy that when that NFL game is on at 6 in the morning. Good God.
People keep subscribing, so they're going to keep adding them.
I have no idea how everybody keeps up with Disney and HBO and every single different Netflix and every single different one to get it all. All I can say is in Canada, they have absolutely pathetic anti-piracy laws. And I mean, if you want to watch everything for free, I'm not saying that I do, but if you wanted to watch everything for free, downloading in Canada is just so easy. It's ridiculous.
Oh, good. I'm going to have to change my VPN to that. By the way, NBA, you're never getting my dollar again. I'm not buying League Pass. I'm going to do it on my own Steam. You load manage Damian Lillard one more fucking time. If I see one more Kawhi Leonard bullshit, you're never getting another League Pass dollar from me again.
Not the same.
That's it. I'm cutting myself off. You're not getting another. I'm not going to this. I'm not going to the arena. You're not getting another dollar from me. You load manage one more time. No, that's it. I'm actually done. I'm not giving. I'll watch, and I'll do to my own. I'll have a fantasy league, but you're not getting my money ever again.
Speaking of, you do know that I'm missing SGA playing Toronto tonight, right? Who's like the next biggest star. I'm telling you right now, this guy is the next Kawhi Leonard, whatever you want to call it. He's unbelievable. Have you seen his stats for this year?
What are his numbers right now?
He's like 32 32 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. And not only that, but the kid plays defense like a banshee. Like, he's all over the place. He's one of the top guys in steals this year too, and he's averaging, I think, at least a block a game. So
I love Pascal Siakam. He's one of the most underrated stars in the league. But that Kawhi Leonard got you guys a champion. You've got a whole country rooting for one team. Isn't that crazy? And the NBA can't figure out how to monetize it. They don't count Canadian ratings in the United States.
hey, look, Rodney's paying to insult me. Isn't that nice?
That's fine.
So far, not going
Keep paying,
well.
Rodney. Keep spending the money.
Glad we didn't put you on. I knew he'd come in here and do it. This back and forth. G Canada's a sweet dude. I know you'd get along if we could broker this friendship. Prime Video for the NFL is a big misstep. Agreed, NA. Who doesn't need to change a channel during millions of commercials a game? Just now stream with nowhere to go. I know it's getting killed, NA. I agree. It's not that it's a bad broadcast. It's just a total pain in the ass. And nobody feels like going through all that, especially if it's a shitty matchup like the Falcons and the Panthers. Like a banshee.
Well, we ought to put him in a dress.
So boring.
That's what I think. Joe, I like your outfit.
Thank you.
Howard's first impulse to put everybody in a dress. I wonder what his sexuality
What it's worth.
is.
I want to borrow it. I know.
Nah, I don't think I'd fit in it. You're a much smaller size than me.
Okay, so this is what he's complaining. This is what Depp ended up doing to promote Sleepy Hollow. And he is in New York very briefly to promote Sleepy Hollow. And I believe it goes a little something like this. One of my favorite award show jokes right here by Chris Rock.
Wow. Will Smith didn't win again. Oh.
Isn't that crazy? He brings up Will Smith during this.
Mhm.
After the Oscar brouhaha, and it just happens to be, it is so bizarre a coincidence.
Oh my God, I've never seen such a thing. All right. You got Mark McGrath and Jennifer Lopez. Now, if she was the lead singer of his group, they'd have to call her Sugar Ass. Come on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, from Tim Burton's new movie, Sleepy Hollow, give it up for the rich man Skeet Ulrich, Johnny Depp.
Look at that plunging neckline, Sarah.
I'm diving right in. I'll chew on that necklace while I'm in there.
Thank you, Rodney. And by the way, this is get more any Sarah than this. You have your favorite actor introducing your favorite.
Oh my
band.
God, you know how happy I was at that moment.
Did you watch these awards when they were on?
Yes, of course. Back
Okay.
in those days, absolutely. Every year, that was an event.
Okay, this is 2 years before 9/11.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
Okay, listen to the way he says nails here. He
Yes.
turns nails into 5 syllables. Somehow, only Depp could do this. And he says, 9-inch nail.
I remember when I was watching that live, I even said out loud, "What just happened?"
what did you do to the word nail? This is when G Canada goes crazy in the chat when he hears words, and this is what he did in the comment section in that when he was arguing with the Deptford wives.
9-inch nails.
Nails.
Leave my lover alone.
Nails.
Sarah, explain to everybody, and you know way more about. Maybe G Canada knows this. What's the deal with Trent Reznor? Why is he so dodgy and unavailable and aloof and hard to get for this stuff? What's the deal with that guy?
He just doesn't believe in any of it. He's one of the guys from the 90s, you know, who they don't. I was watching him today. He inducted The Cure into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 years ago. And he always will say to himself, you will, when he's, you know, before he accepts or declines an invitation to be at an award show, who have you ignored this year in music? And should I even give you my time if you're going to ignore a band like The Cure? That's how he looks at it.
Do you have an example of him selling out?
Yeah, basically when he went Disney and won an Oscar.
Okay.
But that's what Howard likes to say, you know, you evolve. But
yeah.
Reznor eventually, he got married. He stopped drinking. He got married. He had a family. So he started doing soundtracks for movies. So and he's great at it, by the way.
I have no problem doing soundtracks for movies if it's good. I mean, you don't have to sell out. Just you could do it on your own terms. I'm sure he could easily do it on his own
But
terms.
he just
Doesn't mean it has to be a bad song.
he grew up.
Right.
So and he won an Oscar because he's so good at what he does with scoring films. He's a genius musically.
He's turned. Speaking of Depp, so there's a Depp's, Godfather, Lily Rose. He's turned on Marilyn Manson, hasn't he? So he discovered Marilyn Manson, and now he's feuding with him. He's actually come out and said, "I think he's guilty of all this abuse they're accusing him of. I know that's the guy. I want nothing to do with him."
Well, in Manson's book, which I own, but Manson said that Reznor and Manson teamed up to harass a woman backstage. I'm being kind as to what he said, but Reznor came out and said, that never happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And I want nothing more to do with you.
And then one of the musicians that used to tour with them, I think it might have been a Nine Inch Nails musician, also backed up what Reznor said.
Probably.
Is that what is that? I don't know which one it was. I don't know them that well. Thank you, Rodney. Halftime's over. Back to the games, guys. I've interacted much needed comedy into this fail of a simpy. Enjoy the sounds of gay love. And thank you, Rodney. I'll see you next week, pal. We'll probably have G Canada back.
Yeah, see you later, Rodney. I'll miss you. Stupid fuck.
David C.
Boys.
David C. is absolutely nailed the. Is there any better line than a rich man, Skeet Ulrich?
Yeah, that's a great line.
It's the greatest line ever. If everybody knows, Skeet Ulrich was Sarah, what would you call it? Great value Johnny Depp in the late 90s and early 2000s. He's like 5 years younger than him. He looks exactly like him, and he's just sort of like a less talented doppelganger, as it were. And he was in, I think, the Scream. His thing is he debuted in Scream 1 as Depp debuted in Nightmare on Elm Street 1, so it was like,
Depp probably said no to the Scream movie, so they created a great value version of Johnny Depp to put in their movie at, a discount rate. So, and Skeet Ulrich was born.
Good call, Sarah. I think you're right. That's a good theory. Because music sucks. 90s cringe rock, he calls it. He calls it cringe rock. Angry fiscal arm. I don't know what this is. Hashtag vindicate Amber. Hashtag those Manson Depp text exchanges regarding some young 18-year-old females pretty creepy. I saw those too, NA. That's tough to defend. I think Manson claims it's a joke that he's going to offer Depp some 18-year-old to get over the whole situation. You know those texts, Sarah?
Vaguely. I may have to get up for a second. I'll be right back, though. You might hear a knock on the door.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is like how out of it I was, even in the 90s, right? We're sitting here in my living room, and me and a buddy of mine having a few beers, and my wife sitting there, and we were looking at the TV and waiting for a basketball game to come on, probably, or a hockey game, whatever. And Marilyn Manson was in Toronto, and it was, the height of his fame, whatever you want to call it. We turned it on, and I said to them, what the fuck is that thing on the TV? Because I really didn't know. Like, I had no clue, right? And they both just started laughing at me like I was some kind of an imbecile. Because I don't have a clue about those guys. I think I know that one Nine Inch Nails song that everybody knows. But besides that, I couldn't name a Marilyn Manson song. I couldn't name a Nine Inch Nails song.
Well, my problem with Depp is Marilyn Manson is supposed to be everything you'd have in musical integrity is what he is. You should be against. When Depp tried to make it with a kind of a replacements Paul Westerberg type band in the 90s, in the 80s and early 80s, even through the 80s, before he was an actor. I mean, that band you would hate what Marilyn Manson is. It's everything they are against. He doesn't play an instrument. He can't sing. It's all gimmicks. It's all makeup and grunting. And he said all quotes from him of how it's all about gimmicks and that. So he should hate everything that Marilyn Manson is because he got signed and Depp's band didn't. And just not that he should be, but out of bitterness, but out of musical integrity, you should hate everything and refuse to associate with someone just off musical integrity, just off that.
That's exactly why I never listened to the music, because it's just pop music wrapped up a different way. You know what I mean? It's not rock and roll. It's definitely not any kind of thing that will
Well,
hang
it's
around.
it's
You know,
smoke and mirrors and gimmicks. It's like Hot Topic blackface. It's as Doug Goodstein, who should copyright this thing, shtick coma. You're
completely agree.
constantly in shtick mode. That's what Kyrie. See, I was on Gunk. We didn't go into Kyrie Irving and Kanye West are perpetually in shtick coma, right? I mean, you're always trying to be the forced contrarian. You're always trying to, and after a while, you can sort of see through it. You know the person's going to go the other way. They're going to zig when you zag, and it becomes predictable the more you do that. You have to choose your battles with your shtick coma and your contrarian point of view.
I
Would you
guess
agree,
so.
Mr. G Canada?
I guess so, man. But you know, Kyrie Irving is just a complete douchebag, right? I mean,
would you-
overprivileged, overpaid, you know, and these guys, they get on their platform because they're either a movie star like Johnny Depp or, you know, a fabulous basketball player like Kyrie Irving. It doesn't mean that they're intelligent. It doesn't mean they actually have anything to say, which is why I could never watch a show like Letterman. I could never watch a show like Jay Leno interviewing these assholes at night. Like, I just don't care what they have to say. Most of them are vapid morons just trying to promote something. And when they start talking and trying to be intelligent, you can see it. Like, and you can see what a racist Kyrie is too, right? I mean, his hatred for Jewish people is just out of this world.
Well, I think it's again. I don't know if he necessarily means it, but I think it. I think it's shtick coma. I think he's trying to be provocative in a very forced way, and I don't necessarily think he means it. But I mean, you don't know what's in his heart, and you don't know what's in his head when he does. I've been watching his bullshit since Cleveland, and he's always had some form of this. So I don't know if he's anti-Semitic, but I just think he loves attention to be the contrarian shtick coma guy.
I mean, if you had to ask me, I don't think there's much in his head at all. Like, I don't think you could sit
Oh,
down
he's not
and
as
have
smart as he thinks he is. It's like Aaron
have an
Rodgers.
intelligent
He's as smart as-
conversation with the guy. Like, he might be able to remember some talking points, but if he went off script, he's finished. You know?
So speaking of talking points, this is Depp on the Stern Show for the first time. So after that, log away what you just heard. Okay, after they just ripped him and eviscerated him, he's now living in France. They book him on the show, and we've heard it on here, but I'm just going to play the political parts. So Depp is in constant contact with Hunter S. Thompson, and they're going back for 9/11 just happens. So they get Depp on the phone a month later promoting From Hell. And no, sort of log away what you just heard from the MTV Awards. And this is them kissing Depp's ass when they have him on the show from October 19th, 2001 to promote From Hell.
Hey, Johnny.
Hey.
You're an actor, right?
I was at a certain point.
Johnny Depp, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, he can help you out.
JD, would you, you know when these celebrities get up and they read stuff, like at an awards thing? You know
Or
what I'm
a
about
tribute thing.
for the World Trade Center?
Yeah.
Now, Howard got invited to the concert for 9/11, which I think was at the Garden. And I played a little clip of that, and he does this stupid thing where he shames Drew Barrymore and Rosie O'Donnell, and which is like the worst thing you could do at that time for the, when everybody wanted blood. Everyone was like rah rah, we're all armchair warriors at that time. It's like the worst thing you could do is to call an American the enemy during that time. Everybody wanted blood, even like pacifist people did. Even I was like, and I'm as resistant to it. I'm not a pacifist either, but I mean, I would look for any other. I'm not a warmonger in the slightest. So for me to feel like, oh yeah, and I believed it. I believed the bullshit. I believed the lie back then.
I was raised, I've said it a million times, I don't need to say it again, but my father's a veteran, and I was raised that even though, despite what he went through when he came back home from Vietnam, you love your country and you be thankful you weren't born in some shithole in, some shithole Muslim country. But so I was ready. I was Howard. I was like, bomb the entire area. It's fine with me.
Yep.
They did this to us. How dare they? Blah, blah, blah. And you don't, in the back of your mind, your country, they keep things from you, but it's for your own good. And My father still thinks that, and God bless him. But it
Thank you
turns
for your
out,
service, Mr. Sarah, as well. Thank you for your
yes,
service.
absolutely. Happy
And
Veterans
believe
Day,
me,
pops.
we felt it here too. Like,
Yeah.
don't kid yourself. I mean, everything that we do in North America is intertwined, whether people want to believe it or not.
You're our backpack,
energy,
but you're still a part of us.
our energy industries are intertwined. Our industries, period, are intertwined. Like, we have the longest undefended border in the world between two countries.
Yeah.
Up until recently, the most trade in the world went in between Canada and the United States, right? Like, and we felt it even at the border back then. I mean, before 9/11 happened, I could cross the border here with just a birth certificate. And that's all you needed. And we would go across all the time. You never had to have a passport. You didn't even think about it. And sometimes you could even forget your birth certificate and they would still let you over. That's how crazy it was. You just have a driver's license or whatever, right? But it was, and now after 9/11, that all changed. Like, the security at the border got a lot tighter here specifically. Like, I don't know what they do across vast stretches of the West, where, it's just one side of a field or the other. But here specifically, like, the borders tightened up like crazy after 9/11.
That's why we wanted to have you on, because I wanted the Canadian perspective, how you looked at all this. It was truly like one of the main reasons, not that you're just not a great hang and a great funny guy in the chat. I really wanted a Canadian perspective, is how you viewed all this from up north, because I never heard anybody talk about it.
Well, they actually shut down the schools. And
Wow.
everything shut down here too, right? Like, I remember my wife came home at like noon or something, and I didn't have anything on. I didn't know what had happened. And she's like, "Haven't you seen?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And like, our whole city shut down. Everything shut down north of the border too. It wasn't just in the States. Like, we were just as paranoid that something was going to happen here as you were in the States because of our close ties. You know what I mean?
I didn't
And-
quite take it seriously either. I remember I slept till 11:30 that morning. It was 8:30 is when it hit. I had Howard on in the background. It was kind of on, but I didn't quite take it. My dad was on the answer machine, so I pressed play, and he's like, "Hey, you guys." I was my friend Matt. I was living with in Brooklyn. He goes, "Hey, I just want to check in on you guys. You guys doing all right?" He's like, you hear him, and he pauses. He's like, "Ah, wait a minute. Like, you, the last guy that's going to be near the World Trade Center is you. Never mind. I know you're all right. Never mind." Like, it was just the opposite life of me in any kind of Wall Street scenario. But I was probably a mile away from it.
And,
2
but
miles,
you're
2
in,
miles.
you're in the New York City area, right? Like, you're
I
close
was in
to that.
Brooklyn. I was in the Park Slope, Brooklyn Heights area. I was directly across the Brooklyn Bridge. The World Trade Center was hit probably 4 miles away from me. So we
And
got
what were you doing? Were you like working or
Sleeping.
just
sleeping.
Oh, you were living there. You were living that close.
Yeah, I was living in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
And Sarah, you're in. I mean, the terrorist said the next target was Almsville, Oregon, right after New York.
Thank you for doxing me. I appreciate it. Thanks. No, what they were saying on the news, though, for like a few hours, they were saying planes are coming for the West Coast, to be prepared. And we've got some cities in my area. Who knows where they're going to steer off and land in whatever building they're going to attack. We have a Capitol building close to me. You never know. So for a few hours, it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen today?
Well,
I was telling everybody I was in the Pentagon before the Trade Center, and they believed that. So that was my lie. I wasn't.
I'm sorry, man. I'm 10 minutes from Niagara Falls, right, which creates a huge amount of electricity, not only for Canada but for the United States. I mean, a lot of electricity comes from there, so it's a major target for any type of terrorist attack, right? So, so that's what they were worried about here.
Good. That's a great point. I never heard anybody say that in all this time. All the 9/11 dialogue we've had, I've never heard anybody say that.
Well, my father he had an appointment at the Veterans Hospital that day. So they were up in Portland, and from what they were both saying is, you had veterans ready to, try to get out of their wheelchairs and go fight that day. They were ready to go.
Really? Yeah, I bet that was the morale and the attitude. Doug Denslow says, "I loved From Hell." This is the movie Depp's promoting. It's based on a comic book by Alan Moore, right? Yeah, the Hughes brothers directed the movie. And the book, it was like a graphic novel. It was a comic book, not like Marvel or DC, based on a Jack the Ripper kind of graphic novel, and they turned it into a movie. And it's not for everybody. It's kind of like an edgier, Sleepy Hollow, a less goofy Sleepy Hollow. So Depp was like, well, isn't kind of Ichabod Crane the same thing as Frederick Aberline? And so it felt a little redundant if you saw Sleepy Hollow and then saw this. And it's a weird time to promote a movie. Like, no, if people are like, oh God, let's get our priorities straight. Who the fuck wants to see a movie during this time? So the Hollywood sect had a really hard time peddling their shit, as it were. So here's more depth.
Yeah.
Don't you think they sometimes look a little
False?
false, retarded? Yeah, a little retarded.
Well, no, the problem is the teleprompter that's about 300 yards away.
Is that it?
Oh, yeah.
Why can't you just bring papers up with you? Everybody knows you're reading anyway.
Yeah, but I don't want to bring a paper because I can't read from paper and then look up at the camera.
You can't do that newscaster thing?
And listen, I'm all for helping out. I'll help out anyone. We raised $3.5 million. I'm all for helping out.
Okay, let's stop right there. Sarah, you donated to Howard's charity, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I did, unfortunately.
Howard just told us he collected Did everybody hear that? Did everyone hear that? He collected $3.5 million. Forget Jerry Lewis. What happened to this money?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where my donation went.
You tried to track it down, right?
He probably donated it under his name and wrote it off. Who knows?
Yes. Go ahead, Jake.
I'm sure it went the same place that the that the money for Stuttering John's beloved chatter went.
Yeah.
That was the super chats back then, collecting
Through
for
a
charity.
six party down the line where somebody gets $20. And I mean, it's not any different than the stupid fake charity that they've got going on right now. I'm sure when Beth comes on and complains, I spent $35,000, she is handing that check over to the charity, and the charity is reimbursing every single penny she pays out.
Yep. Every private jet.
And he might donate to it, but I'm guaranteeing you right now, he donates right to the very maximum that he can get for a taxable deduction, right? Because he needs them. He's making, tens of millions of dollars a year, but he does not donate a penny more. And then the jobs in this place go out to friends of his, acquaintances. They're all golden handshakes. They get paid way more than they should for what they're doing. It's just another way for him to screw money out of people, right?
Can I read you a story that was sent to either Monique
Hey, Arm.
or I? Yeah.
Go out and come back in.
Yeah, my spot.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah, but I just think...
What did you do?
How about now, Miss Sarah?
It's a little better, but if it
Any
happens
better?
again, I'll let you know. And you need to exit completely and come back in.
I did exit.
Oh, okay.
Is mine any
How do I
better
sound
now?
Yeah, I'm getting used to it. I don't know. I think we just had to acclimate to it.
Like, I've switched rooms, I've switched headphones, I've done everything while I had the mute off, so I don't know what the hell's going on here, man.
God, Jake, you ought to hear yourself. You have no idea how much you sound like Tom Green right now, and I love it. You really remind me of Tom Green.
I'm not
Right, Sarah?
I'm not having sex with I'm not having sex with what's her face for all the tea in China. I'll tell you that right
Drew
now.
Barrymore.
Yeah,
Comes up
not a
later on.
chance,
Drew
man.
Barrymore comes up later on.
Oh, God.
I have this dirt here that was sent to either Monique or I or both, and so this is written about the North Shore Animal League. I have a good friend who worked for the North Shore Animal League. I got mild dirt for you guys. Howard and Beth don't personally donate anything to the North Shore Animal League. In Howard's mind, all the promotion is better than any money that he could do in his own mind. Beth, while she's kind of nice, is definitely a diva and gets treated like royalty when she walks in. Now, keep in mind, this is a non-profit. So what's that all about? Gary Delabate is a cheap asshole. He donated $10,000 to get a trip to Switzerland. Then COVID happened and the trip got canceled. So Gary called in and demanded he get his $10,000 back. The other people who donated for the package, none of them asked for their money back. The really fucked up part is these trips were actually gifts. So North Shore Animal League had to pay Gary the $10,000. He literally took $10,000 from the charity. Isn't that crazy? This is the real people. This is what they really are about. And I believe every word of that.
Well, it's not a real charity anyway, but I mean, it is scamming a lot. A lot of people are getting scammed into giving money for it. There's no doubt about it, right?
Yes. Dorian Morgan writes, and welcome, sir. There were secular nations in the Middle East 50 years ago. Yes, sir. I learned the word secular from the 9/11 sect. I think I heard Bill O'Reilly say it once. I'm like, what is that? O'Reilly just kept saying secular over and over again. They're all secular people. It's all secular. It's all secular. I'm like, what does that mean? I looked at. You can't say those things to the owners of Jews. I don't know. Says NA. Maybe everybody needs to stop believing in things they can't prove. Religion is just self-help that got out of control. That's so wise, NA. I agree. It truly is a boogeyman, the invisible man. It truly is just giving yourself some faith that some greater good is coming your way when all this ends. I absolutely agree with that. As Bill Maher said, it is religious. Dorian Morgan. We are tripping out in San Francisco since one of the planes is headed here. That's right. That's right. Thank you, George Bush and Dick Cheney and Halliburton. Halliburton is actually in, if anyone watches the Houston Astros game, they actually advertise in the Houston Astros outfield and the warning track right on the fence. I saw Black Adam says not too bad. Lauren Marie, welcome. We brought you up again in relates to the ninth gate. Welcome, Lauren, and thank you for all that you do. $35,000 for a cat is insane. Sarah, what did you donate to the 9/11 Howard's 9/11 charity?
Well, let's put it in perspective here and add a little bit of context. I am a single person at the time and barely scraping by. I think every month I would have $30 to spend on myself. I donated $50 to the man because he got under my skin and made me feel bad.
Wow, that's awful. Oh my goodness.
When you tried to track it, what did you do to track it?
I don't even remember because I think I don't know how I can't tell you. I don't remember that far back, but I couldn't figure out where the money went. I think on my bank statement, it said something really strange, like it was X'd out, like he didn't,
Right.
like the company he was using to process the payments
Oh,
was
that sounds
weird.
like Howard.
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds like he would. He's so he so hates civilians. He doesn't even want to. You're not even entitled to know where your money went in terms of if you even wanted to write it off. He's that paranoid about anything money related. That sounds exactly like what he would do.
I was so in love with him, in that era that I would have done anything he asked, and I did basically. But I was like, okay, what does my bank statement say? Oh, that's weird.
Oh my god, that's so. It just does not. It's so That does not surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, but he mentioned once. He goes, "Yeah, we made $3.5 million," and then he never mentioned it again. Because normally he would, and that's not really a very big amount for his audience. That's very little.
No, it isn't.
To raise $3 million when you talk about it every day. But he didn't brag about it ever again. He dropped it immediately. So I got a weird
He dropped it. I know
feeling.
he stopped talking. He summarily stopped talking about it at a certain point. I remember that. I'm like, what happened to 9/11? He was pushing it, and it's just like Sirius. And he does the kind of the bat shoot.
You think he matched the donations?
Well, this is what Baby Benjamin David, who's quoting the real Benjamin, says. As per Benjamin, when the North Shore Animal League is a penny away from their fundraising goal, Howard comes in and magically slam dunks that last penny to take credit for it. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Get in the way. I'd like to go see the concert. Go? I don't know. I can't decide what to do. I want to know what I'm supposed to read. Go hang out.
Well, if you ever talk to anybody, you might find out.
Because I want to get up and read something like, I think we should kill Osama bin Laden. Something like this. Something.
This is full chicken hawk Howard with all the wrong intel.
Radical.
Yeah. Well, you'd be the only one doing that. That's for sure.
What?
Johnny, where do you stand on all this?
Why do you have to read? Why couldn't you just say whatever you feel like saying?
Because I don't feel anything. No, because the stuff that I say, they throw me right out.
That would be funny.
You see, I don't want to be everybody's buffoon.
Now, Howard saying he doesn't feel anything is actually the truth. That's a sociopath. Don't feel anything. That's real. That's not a joke. He's not feeling anything, and he continues to not feel anything to this day. NA writes, Sarah's voice is still undefeated. No one even comes close. G Canada, anything to add on that?
Well, that's what the fake love for the animals comes into, right?
Yes.
Lots of sociopaths. Like even if you look at The Sopranos, you know, when Tony Soprano had this love for the ducks in his backyard and his horse, you know, he kills a guy over a horse, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's a proven fact that over the years, people like that try to say that they have all this love for animals, so people don't realize what kind of piece of shit they really are deep down inside. And you're talking about a what's that?
Go ahead. Go. No, I'm sorry. Go.
I was going to say, you're talking about a guy deep down inside too, who for every time somebody came into the studio, one of the first questions out of his mouth, just like that stupid shit, Stuttering John, the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, how much money did you make for this? How much money did you make for that? What was your quote for this movie? What was your quote for that TV show? How much did you get to be a Playboy centerfold? Whatever the question was, he was always digging about their money, and he would never ever answer a single question about what kind of money he was getting, ever.
There's
right?
so much audio about him ducking money questions to such a ridiculous degree. I say that to anybody who goes in there, like, you want to shut Howard down, just turn the money thing, ask him anything money. He won't tell you. You can't find out what he made off the E show. Like the stuff with the radio, it kind of got out there, like Forbes somehow poked around. You can't find out what he made off his books, private parts. You can't make out with the pay-per-view specials. That is the greatest way to shut him down. But you're absolutely right. It is his go-to thing. And I'm amazed. Anytime somebody volleys it back, he shuts him right down.
Well, we all know what he made for the movie, which was nothing, right?
Well, we actually don't have G Canner, we don't have a salary quote. What he had producer status on it. They obviously bought the rights from the book to make the movie. We don't know what he got for the movie. What exactly was the salary? I don't think anybody can figure it out. The movie made only $41 million internationally.
And that's what I was saying, right? Like I just meant overall, the movie didn't make anything. He probably had his end. He probably had his end once again, worked in. It wasn't like, okay, well, give me, $500,000 up front, and then I'll take a cut of what the movie makes. He probably said, I want $10 million just to make the movie. And didn't the production company go bankrupt right after making that movie?
Yes.
So once again, Howard gets his, and everybody else just gets bent over.
The budget for the movie was $30 million, and he only brought in 41. That's why it went. So you don't even have like DVD sales because they put no effort into making extras or doing a commentary. Because I think it was just he was so lazy and he wanted to get paid extra for it, and I think they just said, no, we can't deal with you anymore. We're shutting down. Like, well, how many DVDs do you know from that year that don't have extras on it when DVDs first started getting them made?
And I found it was pretty shocking how little sales the movie did do. I mean, all of us as Stern fans back in the day thought there would be millions and millions of people going, flooding into the movie theater to watch this, right? I mean,
yes. Well, that was I've gone over this point just mathematically. If he's bragging about having 20 million listeners, if movies were whatever, $7 at night, $5 for a matinee, if all his so he has non-fans seeing the movie, wouldn't you think every fan saw his movie, right? At least once. So if that were true, at its lowest figure, you'd have to make $100 million because every fan saw the movie. So he could never produce any figures. He lies about his listeners all the time, and the movie numbers prove that. Right? Every person would have to have seen the movie, and people saw it multiple times, and people who didn't like him saw the movie. Then where are all these fans you claim to have? How is it only making $41 million?
Especially when he says he's number one in 100 markets across the U.S., right?
He would lie about his stats more than Pascal Siakam at halftime.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But the one thing that you can't put past him is the king of promotion. Whether or not the promotion is justified, I mean, he was able to promote himself beyond what anybody else could, and with not much to back it up. I mean, the guy hasn't said a funny thing since Jackie stopped whispering in his ear. He brought in Artie after that, and Artie, carried the comedy for the show. But Howard didn't see anything funny after Jackie started writing him notes.
I say that all the time.
Stopped writing him notes.
I say that all the time on Gunk. That edge. Sarah loves Jackie, by the way. Right, Sarah?
Yeah, nothing can compare to Jackie, including Artie.
And
that's correct.
There was a vitriolic, caustic wit Howard had with Jackie writing for him that completely vanished when it became Benji. G. Canada is absolutely spot on the money. But in regards to what's even more than his listenership, the promotion, you say, so he has a radio show, right, that's on every day, and he's doing nothing but pumping the movie for 5 hours a day to this supposed audience of 20 million, 25 million people. You don't get more promotion than that. How that movie only made $41 million, either he doesn't have nearly as many listeners as he had, or the movie's so bad nobody wanted to see it, or it just fails on every level, or the show isn't a good promotion, right? Then you coming in there doesn't do anything to move a movie, and maybe it did. We have all these movies that bombed when people came in there to promote it. He had 5 hours a day for over a year to promote that movie, and it still only made $41 million.
And just like his move to satellite, he did promote that movie every single day.
Every day.
He pounded it into us that this is going to be the best movie that any of us will ever see. You thought it was going to be epic. I don't know, the next Apocalypse Now or Godfather or something ridiculous, So I would think that if he had that many listeners as they claimed, they would have been lining up to see the movie over and over again. You're
at least once. At least once.
Absolutely.
I'm just doing the math. If it's $5 a head at a matinee or $7 at night, where are all these people? Go ahead, Sarah.
I've said this before again, but I went to the big movie theater, in Oregon, and one of them, and I was the only one in the theater. It was opening day.
G. Canada, did you see it in a theater? What was your crowd like?
I don't think so. I mean, I go to very few movies in the theater, right? Like even back then, I had a surround sound set up and a good TV, so I would wait till stuff came out. Like we had a drive-in close to here, so we'd go to stuff in the summer. Maybe I saw it there. I think I did see it there. Actually, was it out in the summer? When did it come out? Do you remember what time of year?
Winter of 1997. Came out the same day. The same period Donnie Brasco came out. Not necessarily the same day, but the same 2-week period. So it went against like Jungle to Jungle and Donnie Brasco. I saw Donnie Brasco and Private Parts on the same day. In fact, in this interview, Depp actually self-deprecatingly says that Private Parts killed Donnie Brasco at the box, which it did not. Donnie Brasco made almost $100 million internationally, but I think Private Parts and Brasco beat Private Parts by like $100,000 in the States. So Depp acts like it. Go ahead, sir.
Based on what he was telling us about how busy the theaters were going to be, how crazy good this movie was going to be.
Riots.
I got there 2 hours early to be the only one sitting in the theater watching it. And when it's over, when Stuttering John goes on his fake stuttering rant at the very end, I think I said even out loud, I said, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you thought, well, you're stopping in 1985, right? Jackie just joined the show. They have no backstory. Jackie told the story how he wasn't a Buckwall client, so they wrote his scenes out of the movie.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, hey, there's Jackie. Here we go. Let's get to the good stuff. Oh, okay, it's over.
They just plopped him down in the studio. There's no backstory to how they found him or anything. The guy who's writing all the funny shit on the show, you're just not going to give him any backstory.
Yeah, to play the pussy game with Robin, pretending she's Brett Summers.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Jackie's here. Oh, okay, I guess they're dancing on stage now with AC/DC, and it's over. Okay, thank you.
You got to remember too, intermittently, I would not have access to Howard for some reason, and this was always a mystifying to me, is that he wasn't really on in Buffalo, right? And Buffalo being in New York City, a New York State city, pardon me, you would think that he would have been on in Buffalo, the whole time. It would have been a huge thing for him. He was on in Toronto for like a year, and everybody hated it, and they yanked him off. He was on in Buffalo for a year or two, and I'm sitting right in between the two places. The most that I had was, I don't know if you guys remember when DirecTV came out, and everybody in Canada ran out and
96. Yeah, I remember well because my dream was, as a kid, as a teenager, they had to have something like the NBA League Pass that debuted on DirecTV, where you could have any game. I was a Trailblazer fan living in Long Island, and you could see them 5 times a year, maybe.
So in Canada, again, those kind of copyright laws and everything don't really exist, and because it was an American satellite dish, they really didn't have any laws concerning it. I ran DirecTV with every single channel unlocked for 7 or 8 years.
My friend did that too.
7 or 8 years.
Yes, it was a card you put in, right? You had a card, and
so
my friend had the same thing. Oh God, it was the best TV ever.
So that was the most access that I had to him steady, was the E channel from, what was it, 11 to 12 every night, or 10 to 11?
No,
so that
right,
was the most steady access that I had to him. Before and after was sort of intermittent. Like, I couldn't listen to it, right? There was no internet back then. You couldn't pop on the internet and say, oh, I'm going to listen to Howard Stern today. So you were kind of screwed. So you didn't always have it, right?
That's his fault. That's his fault. He wanted that, what you said about syndication. He and Buchwald could not rape the company. I think he was a partner at Terrestrial too. So they wouldn't show it. They wouldn't run it on when you were the first time you were streaming radio. You could go stream music and other shows. Howard blocked them from doing it. So if you missed the show, you'd never see. You had to hear it in the morning, or they wouldn't replay it in the afternoon. He couldn't strike enough of a money deal where they would double his salary to have it on the streaming. So he never did it on terrestrial.
And his ratings in Canada sucked. Like, they signed him for 1 year. They paid him a ton of money. And as soon as that year was up, they couldn't get him off the radio fast enough because they lost money on it. He was done. Right? Yeah. And they moved him to Buffalo, which is a much smaller market. But the reason that Buffalo has a huge market, so to speak, is because it does get sent to Toronto. Right? I mean, there's, 7 million people living in, greater Toronto area. And that's where the Buffalo market comes from. I think Buffalo might be 1 million-ish people in the Buffalo area, but their huge market is Toronto. And I think it might have been on in Buffalo for a year or two, and the ratings sucked again. And they just took it off, and it was gone.
Well, that was Jackie's dissolution, exit from the show. Sarah, you know the story, right? He wanted a cut from every market.
From syndication, yeah.
Right. Which is fair, right? I'm writing all your funny shit. I'm making you funny. I know the markets you're getting syndicated in, and I just want a little raise.
And I'm the fodder for a third of your show every day.
Yes, my personal life is, not yours.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about your... Go ahead.
Sorry. Meanwhile, at that time, Howard is making $30 million a year, right?
Yes.
He's making $30 million. Jackie's making, what did they say? He wanted to raise from $900,000, and everybody else was below Jackie. So Howard, again, like he was always, was taking 90% plus of all the money that was being paid to the employees there is going in Howard's pocket, and he doesn't want to share any of it with anybody. Not even a little bit, right?
Hence the nickname by Jackie, Marbles. That's where Marbles comes from.
Apropos.
If there's 20 marbles, Howard has to have 19 of them in every situation. That's so brilliant. David writes, I don't feel anything, huh? That's one of those double talk statements Howard does where it really is the truth, but he knows to the humanoids it'll come off as ironic and funny. That's so true, David. We know Howard's salary of $96 a week from his early days, blah, blah, blah. We know it down to the penny. Yet after that, we somehow don't deserve to know anything after that. That's the last time. And I don't even believe that number, David. Afi gives Private Parts a 2 out of 5. David, Private Parts is totally all over the place. It's trying to merge like a Woody Allen comedy with rom-com ingredients and multiple narrations. That's really well said, David. An unclear moral. What is the moral exactly? You cheated on your wife. That's not the moral. I mean, I love Allison. It's all about Allison. You contradicted that mightily. The movie did rely on tits. Afi, you're absolutely right. Nudity is a big selling point for. Lauren Marie says, I love that movie at the time because I was such a huge Stern fan. I love the soundtrack. Yeah, the soundtrack is good because I love the typo was on it. That's exactly right.
Soundtrack is a good 7 out of 10, which is excellent for a soundtrack. I used to drive around. I only had an AM radio in my '74 Dodge Dart, so it was either Imus or I carried a boombox around listening to that soundtrack constantly in the front seat of the car. And I was at a point I pretended I was in denial, let's say. I pretended the movie was good because I didn't want to disappoint him somehow by
Yeah.
being honest and say I was so in love with that man. God. I would
He
get up at
also
3 in the morning in Portland, KUFO. They played his show at 3 a.m., so it was actually live for 3 hours. And then they would restart it at 6 a.m. our time. I would listen. I would get up at 3 a.m. to hear both broadcasts of that show because I was so in love with him and believed
I've never
everything he
seen
said.
I've never seen a movie reveal he had so much promotion given to him. In fact, people don't realize MTV is owned by CBS. So MTV was giving him full hour promotional things. They dedicated a whole day to him promoting that movie. The E channel had entire blocks of promotion. So by the time all the promotion ended, you saw every scene in the movie. When I saw the movie, there was nothing I hadn't seen in some clip or promotional thing by the time I saw it on opening the Friday it came out. Lauren says he had me brainwashed for years. Yep. You're not the only one, Lauren. That's what Sarah just said. I'm there with you.
I
I don't
copied
think
her.
I don't think did you? I don't think Howard lasted more than a year over here, but Bob and Tom broadcasted it. I forgot. Oh, this guy's like the like Indiana or something.
Yeah, he
Or he's
replaced for us. He replaced a guy named Bill Prescott, who I listen to every morning. And Howard never made it to #1 in Oregon.
okay. Let me finish. Let me go
Yeah,
with
let's
this.
get through this.
I don't want to be the guy that gets up there and then they go, oh, it's disgusting, and they
You'll
throw
be
me
like
up.
Gilbert Gottfried at the Emmys that one year.
Yeah, I just know whatever I say will be misconstrued. Like, I once did a telethon. The only thing I can think of like this, I once did a telethon early on in my career.
Easter seal.
Easter seals. And I got up there, and I got in the wheelchair, and I started rolling myself around in it, and I go, hey, this thing's pretty comfortable. I like it. And I was like, I thought I was being cute.
That's cute.
They threw me right out.
He really said he got in the wheelchair. But it's about crippled children. He got in the wheelchair and said, this isn't so bad.
Did you really think
I go, I'm sick of walking around all the
Did you really
time.
think critics would go, oh, Howard did a cute thing?
I just end up screwing it up. You know what I mean? And it's a serious cause. I mean, I'm all for raising money for everyone knows that. I mean, God knows I'm as angry as anybody, but
And one would think you could forget yourself for a moment.
yeah, please. What would you do, Johnny? Are you
Affy thinks it sounds like Howard's hitting on Depp when he says I don't feel anything because he's trying to sound emo and somehow he's going to relate to Howard. I don't feel, looks like Ralph's getting. I think it's what Affy's implying with his Vince Carter jersey.
This was the 9 Inch Nail era of Howard, where he had that bumper sticker on that door.
Oh yeah,
And he knew that song that he called "I Want to F You Like an Animal." That's what he thought the song was called. But yeah, he was into the Marilyn Manson shit. Even after Mechanical Animals, he was still saying he was a fan of Marilyn Manson and whatever.
Well, that was what K-Rock was playing at the time too.
Yeah, exactly.
His own the flagship station in New York.
He's a big music guy. We can tell by the gold records hanging in the bowling alley.
I want to feel the sun.
going to do any of these?
Big Godsmack fan.
I'm not going to be here. You know, I've
You've abandoned the country.
Yeah, what do? You live in...
abandoned the country 3 years ago.
Don't the French hate Americans, though, Johnny?
No, I mean, to be specific, Parisians have a slight problem with Americans every now and again.
But I understand.
Aren't they French?
At this point, Parisians have been walking around with I Love New York T-shirts on.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, they have.
It's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, don't buy it.
You don't believe it.
As soon as we ask them if we can fly over to airspace, they get pissed. What's your take on all this?
On everything that's happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, who do you want to kill?
I mean, it's the weirdest thing in the world. It's the most devastating.
So I should say Depp is in France. It's, I think the time difference, I think it's 3:00 in the afternoon. So he's very lucid here. And he's thought of as like Mr. Euro expatriate. Now he's just sort of like, he meets Vanessa Paradis in 1998 from Roman Polanski, for Christ's sake. I would almost think Howard would bring up Polanski during this, and he didn't. There's no good way to get out of that. And when he did The Ninth Gate and he met Vanessa Paradis there, he just became like Mr. And even started before that, because I think it started with Kate Moss and Oasis when he started to become like just dry humping England at the point. You know, it's just a cool thing to say that you're kind of, and I'd say it started in the mid '90s. This sort of expatriate, anti-establishment thing he would do with America, and
Yeah.
some of it's valid critiques, and some of it's contrived.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan writes, "There's a point of diminishing returns with over promoting things. Same thing with movie trailers. Sometimes they give too much away to their own detriment." Well said, Brendan. Couldn't agree more.
Atrocious thing ever.
The worst. I mean, because you strike me as like one of those pacifist dudes. I don't know why.
Here's what I listen. I wouldn't say I'm a pacifist, but what I think they should do immediately, if not sooner, is create about 300 million gallons of liquid LSD.
I like this idea.
And saturate Afghanistan at this point.
Now, pick up there. Depp says Afghanistan.
Yeah,
He doesn't
wrong.
say Iraq.
Wrong. Well, either way, wrong country.
Yeah,
We
well,
learn
didn't know what
later.
was going on. Yep.
I know.
We do it with LSD.
Now, what would that accomplish?
Well, at that point, because even, I mean, liquid LSD, as small, as tiny as a pinhead.
Yeah, I've done it, so.
So that would send you spinning for about 2 days minimum. Like a glass of it would spin you out for about 3 weeks. So that could just calm the situation for a minute. Then you could send like people dressed like the Teletubbies.
And freak them out.
And just do anything you wanted. Make faces at them, whatever.
You know what?
He works with Tim Burton.
You know what? That's not crazy, though. What
That's
about...
not a bad idea.
If everyone's...
I have a feeling that Rumsfeld has thought of that.
Donald Rumsfeld.
See, I don't think you're kidding. I think what you're saying is taint the water with LSD, let's say, or the way they're going to do biological stuff on us. That way you're not killing anyone who's, let's say, civilian.
Exactly.
And then you walk in there and all the goofy dudes, you just freak them out and grab them. They're just tripping.
Snatch them up.
It's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
Giving everyone acid?
What's that?
Giving everyone acid. Open them up a little bit.
But then the government has this whole drug policy.
Well, hey, this is
Sounds
war.
hypocritical.
Why don't we just tell them we're God when they're on acid? And then they'll understand everything.
Yeah.
I love his laugh.
Project some weird
Yeah,
film
Depp's
or
got
something.
a cute little laugh.
I can't see you living in France. You see, here's a guy.
Why did he leave? Why did you leave America?
Initially I left America to go and do a film, and then, fell in love, had a baby, and that was it.
You married now?
No.
No. Well, not officially.
You don't believe in marriage, right?
No, it's not. It's not a bad thing. I think I'd wait until my daughter was old enough to sort of participate.
Yeah. Walk you down the aisle.
It's about 3.
His daughter Lily Rose is 2 here, I think. So you hear that? You could hear the Hunter S. Thompson in him, right? I mean, at this point, he's talking to Thompson every day on the phone, and he's kind of sharing a brain with him, as it were. And Thompson was writing a column for ESPN2 at that. It's a sports column, but he was known to write sports and politics and fuse them together sometimes. And he wrote stuff just like that. You could hear the Thompson brain in Depp going. Not that he's sounding like him. He sounds pretty lucid here. And G Canada is obsessed with how Depp's voice changes all the time. Like that versus what you saw in the trial. Different, huh?
Well, he's trying to be something else all the time, right? Like he doesn't just want to be himself. He has to put on this persona to make himself sound more intelligent, to make himself sound more worldly. Maybe he's from France. Maybe he's from Britain. Maybe he's from LA. Who knows? It's just ridiculous, man. It's just about trying to be something that you're not all the time. Like, can't he just be real for 5 fucking seconds?
Well, that's such is his dilemma. He's got the chameleon thing, so he morphs into whatever is in front of him at the moment. It's an insecurity thing too, right? You just want to please whatever's in front of you. You don't really have a true persona or personality, and you'll morph it and tweak it to whomever is in front of you just to please them. And that's an insecurity thing he has.
I know you went through his finances. Do you really believe that he actually lost $400 million? I mean, you know more than anybody else.
650.
You're dead serious about that. Like, it just disappeared. It evaporated. It went to nowhere. They can't track it down. He's never getting any of it back. $650 million.
Here's the problem with a guy like him. And let's say he did lose it. His international value and stardom is so crazy and so iconic. You can't cancel this guy. That he could just do a Japanese beer commercial tomorrow and recoup, $30 million. There's no broke with someone like him. Sarah, we've gone over the transcripts ad nauseum. Do you believe he truly lost $650 million?
I do, and I think it's easier than you think when you have multiple people working for him, pilfering and using it for their vanity projects and funding their divorce. And you have all of these professionals that he was paying out the ass, and they're investing it in their own personal endeavors. And he doesn't pay attention.
No, that's absolutely true.
How do you not have somebody from the outside, somebody who's not connected at all, and pay him? Who cares what it is? It would have cost them a couple $100,000 a year to have a lawyer and an accountant with no connections to anybody that you know, just to come in and look at your finances every couple months. And
I think he trusts that company to do that. That's what they were.
That's who he sued.
That's what I'm saying.
That's who he
how
sued.
Can you trust anybody? Like you have somebody do that, yes, but how do you not have somebody on the outside when you're talking about that kind of money to come in every couple months and look at what these people are doing objectively without any influence, without any ulterior motives? To just have somebody look at a lawyer and an accountant and say, what is going on here?
But I think he thought they were doing it objectively.
Because the people he trusted were also stealing from him. Yeah. And I don't want to paint him to be a professional victim because, he's got even on his worst day, it's better than all of our best days. But his sister stole from him. His best friend stole from him. Sal Jenko, his best friend, stole from him at the Viper Room. So you can't even trust your own family. Everybody he's buying houses for, and he likes to stay gleefully oblivious to all this because this is not the way of the artist, is to not know.
I think he learned a massive lesson to pay attention. I think as long as he could take a trip on the yacht or spend a week on the island, he thought he was fine.
He learned that from Marlon Brando. So.
Yeah, he said when he was testifying, he said, as long as I have a movie, I know there's money. And I think that's as far as he took it.
I urge everybody to listen to our the Tracy Jacobs transcripts. I think you really get the sense of the money situation. We reenact his ex-agent. He fired his agent for just bad deals, and I'm sure he accused her of. And we kind of reenact. She testified in the UK trial. And for the business dealing. So she had to account for what happened to the money. And that's it's probably the best detailed play-by-play of him just squandering. There were things like she said, you got the Hollywood. He was basically doing pro bono work for Alice Cooper and Joe Perry with the Hollywood Vampires. Not getting paid to tour, and all the Deptford wives are flooding these arenas to see him, and he's not getting paid for it. And his agent Tracy Jacobs had it out with Alice Cooper's manager Shep Gordon. That's the guy he did the thing for CBS where he showed up wasted, which got around to all the agents. And she's like, you can't tour with this dumb band. It's a glorified, like I said, Hot Topic blackface karaoke cover band. We need you to do a movie because every time you go in 6 months with these guys, I have $25 million offers. You've got to take it. So he's constantly in kind of rock star redemption mode for the band that didn't get signed in the early 80s.
And let's face it, I mean, we've all seen videos of him trying to be a front man, and I say trying, and that's being nice about it. He sucks as a singer, as a front man. He is not, we're not talking about Ozzy Osbourne or whoever, right? Like, we're not even talking about some guy, Stuttering John as a front man. If he wasn't Johnny Depp, he wouldn't make a single dime. There wouldn't be anybody coming out to see him. He would get booed off stage. They'd be throwing bottles at him because he'd be playing in some dirty hole in the wall in some slum somewhere where people would run him out of the building. He's terrible.
And he'd talk his way out of it, just like John. But here's the problem with what you're saying it's all subjective, right? Music. This is what I love about sports. It's got metrics, and it's the best of the best is doing it. To be a front man, it's more about charisma than it is about talent. What does that mean? A good front man. He doesn't jump around and he doesn't effort. He does interact with the fans. In fact, I want to say, I keep forgetting to bring this up. Sarah and I were talking about how the biggest nightmare is Joe. I kind of want to say Joe, definitely Jeff Beck, and all these dinosaur rockers he hangs out with. Depp is so accessible to his fans in meet and greets that these guys get sucked into these and the last thing Jeff Beck wants to do is is cavort with Deptford wives who know him from.
Yeah, do you think, because that Laura B is showing off the picture she took standing next to Jeff Beck, do you really think Jeff Beck wants to be there posing with Laura B from Twitter?
But they know nothing about him.
I know.
And he knows that. He's certainly a bright guy. He's in his late 70s. He knows exactly who's putting asses in the seats, and it's Depp doing it. But it's really crazy to think the whole frontman thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many quotes I have from him all through the 90s saying I would never go back to this because I don't want my fame as an actor impacting this. I have too much respect for the medium to go into music and use my fame as an actor. He's just torn that limb from limb, as you can see.
Like I've seen hundreds of concerts, literally hundreds of concerts over the years. All the biggest rock and roll bands you could imagine, pretty much. Like I haven't missed any of them. So I kind of know what's good and what isn't. And he just isn't. He just doesn't have it when he's standing on stage. I'm sorry. It's not interesting. It's not, I don't know, exciting, if you want to call it that, except for the Deptford wives that are
not
there.
alone, G. Canada. You are not alone in that, but everybody's entitled to their opinion. I just think it is the most subjective thing in the world. Music, to be a front man. What is a good front man? What's good guitar? It's all in the ear and in the eye of the beholder. You know what I mean? It's just, and that's why it's bullshit, because the best of the best isn't doing it. That's why sports is great, because the best of the best is doing it and getting paid to do it. I mean, sports has its problems, but that's not one of them. It's merit-based.
I mean, I was 15 and I saw Eric Clapton play in concert. It was the first concert I ever went to. That guy's a front man. And it doesn't matter what he does. He can stand up there and you are mesmerized by him. It's something that sucks you in. It's something that you become a part of. You feel it. And Johnny, unless it's a Deptford wife, I just don't feel it from him, man. But you said it's subjective, right? But whatever. I mean, I think he should just stick to acting. I'm not going to say he's a shitty actor.
Well, that's my issue.
Not.
I'm with
He's a
Crazy
good
Jacobs. The more and it's artistically, it's not, he's doing covers. I mean, they kind of make karaoke jokes all the time, and it's like a reluctant front man, and he has to, because Jeff Beck doesn't sing, right? So he's like, all right, I'll do it, and I'll just do my Sweeney Todd thing, and I'll do it, and if you notice, he's got a British lilt when he sings each song. That's
you feel that. You feel that he's like, this isn't his thing. You feel that when you're watching it. And that's why it's never going to be any good. I don't care what he does. Go back and act. Like, I'll watch your movies all day. I got no problem with that. I can't remember ever watching a 21 Jump Street a million years ago. But go back, make your movies. I'll watch them, fine. But get out of the singing business, buddy. You're terrible.
Look, as a fan of his chameleon acting skills, nobody wants him to drop this more than I, because every time he's agreed, and he's going to start another tour with the vampires, every time he agrees to this, that's 6 months he's not taking another script. That's how many movies that could come in. And that's, I'll never defend that. Artistically, just nothing for me. And he's living, he's doing what he wants. When has he not done what he wants? When has he ever not done what he wants? He's not canceled. There's a billboard in Manhattan. I showed the walking tour I watched yesterday. He's got a Spaceman MTV billboard in Manhattan. That's not canceled. When you have a tour pre-booked during the trial, you're not canceled. You can't cancel him.
He can't be canceled because there's 20 million Deptford wives and Rodney out there.
Right.
Who just no matter what he does, he can't do any wrong. So you're right. He can't be canceled, but he's going to need that $100 million to pay my sweet, sweet Amber. I mean, he better go back to work, because if he doesn't have $100 million right now, just look at the UK court, right? I mean, the UK court got it right. He's a horrible person, and he needs that money to pay Amber. Hashtag
Okay, so-
Amber's IQ is higher than Arm's. Please all support me at my hashtags. You know where they are, but I don't really know how to make hashtags, so they really aren't anywhere. But anyway, support me. That's I'm getting paid in plugs for this, so please support my hashtags. Everybody comment on them.
Okay, so here is Howard doing exactly what he told Depp he was planning to do at the concert for 9/11.
I just want to say something to all the celebrities who have stayed away from New York. I say shame on you. Come back to New York.
Look at that little limp wrist.
Don't be afraid, honey. It ain't scary here. I mean,
now you're Drew Barrymore, right? And you have the entire world watching this concert, and you just got thrown on Ralph Cramden's bus, for Christ's sake, to everybody watching this, that you're this defector and you're a coward, and this is, she's a stupid actress and she's got no political bend to her at all. She's terrified. She doesn't know what to do. She canceled Saturday Night Live. She's just a crazy. And could you imagine how terrified you'd feel having yourself thrown under the bus at that point during this, of all things? No matter who you are. Now, you can hate Drew Barrymore, whatever, but it had to be terrifying because that, the power he had back then, especially in New York.
Of course.
The badge money. And this is his dream, too, and being in front of firemen and cops.
With his ass showing.
With his ass showing, especially. Babe Lewis says, Sarah, I did the similar thing from California with a live East Coast feed at 3 o'clock in the morning, at least 1 hour. West Coast, that's such 3 a.m. you guys are what? Is that what started your 3 a.m. wake-up call?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it did. I think you got used to it.
I blame him for that. Can I get reparations for that?
Because I got your pensions right here, pal. I never get sick of it. Pass up a fist up your ass, Babe Lewis. Oh, dry humping England. Lauren Marie says, I remember this interview. I was driving and yelling at my radio because Howard was asking stupid questions. There's no way Depp thinks Stern is cool or relevant during this. He's definitely humoring him, Lauren. But there were very few good Depp interviews until this point. They got some information out of him that hadn't been, because Howard had a solid 30 odd minutes with him, which hadn't been done before. But I completely agree with most of what you say here.
it can't be any worse than spending the night with Tom Green alone.
There's Tom Green.
Heather Graham, come on back and help us out here in New York. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, Heather Graham was in From Hell, by the way. So that From Hell came out right around this time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do the Tonight Show. You can come here and do the David Letterman Show, honey. Don't be afraid.
That honey.
All celebrities should come.
Right, Sarah?
Right?
Get a screenshot.
I'm good.
Wow. What an ugly son of a bitch.
Either he's kissing and dancing with the male host, or he's showing his ass. This is
From
every
tip
move.
to tail, a beast.
Yeah, but it's like the rest of his body. He doesn't even have an ass. He doesn't have any arms. He doesn't have any legs. He doesn't have any waist. He's just a stick up and down.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to his body. Marfan
Goblin, exactly right.
Well, the karma that we have here with him is if he can sit in a wheelchair and mock disabled people by saying, this ain't so bad, today his bones are turning to dust, and soon he will be in a wheelchair if he's not already.
That's
and then
karma.
we can point and laugh.
Look at this crowd, too, at this place. It looks like Cyrus at the gang convention in the Bronx in the Warriors. And go,
yep, firefighters.
Can you dig it? That's a lot of people back. That's exactly what that reminds me of.
Home and back to New York. Although a few of the celebrities should stay away, like Kathy Lee Gifford and that annoying hen on The View, Star Jones. Thank you for having me here today.
These are all his targets back then, over and over again. It's Kathy Lee Gifford, it's Rosie O'Donnell, Star Jones, Drew Barrymore. He got them all in there, and this is Jackie's gone by then, so Jackie's not writing that for him. That's probably Benji.
That's why it's garbage.
That's why it's garbage.
And he's chastising people for not coming back to New York City. Meanwhile, this is the guy that when somebody calls out his name in a park and he's with his wife and kid, he goes and hides in the limo before they get there and locks the doors and leaves them outside. Who would do that?
Or stays in Florida rather than catching a cold.
You know his true colors, Cyndi Lauper. Casey Armstrong had the greatest comment on this. He actually texted us. He goes, Howard's trying to posture like because Casey got shamed for going back to Long Island. And Casey's like, where was he going? His wife kicked him out. He's got nowhere to go. There's no Hampton's house. He can't see his kids. He's got absolutely nowhere to go. He's a mile away from K Rock. There's nothing heroic about what he did. He has security, he has guards, he's the safest guy in the city. There's nothing heroic about him.
He's getting in his limo with his security all around him. He's driving 2 blocks, getting back out surrounded by security, and going up to his office. That's it.
And Sarah, what was the tagline you like to quote from the whole time? He was in the studio that day.
Oh, can I go, Tom?
Over and over again. He goes, can I go, Tom? Should I go, Tom? Should I go, Tom? Should I go, Tom? Should I go, Tom? John O'Reilly goes, many people at that level don't worry about expenses as long as there's plenty of money coming in. I agree, John. I think Depp likes being oblivious to the money thing. And I think he was at a level where this is just never going to stop. And he could just throw money at any problem. I mean, there's no problem, right? Even if it's as a drug addict or any kind of substance guy, if you can throw money at the problem, you never hit bottom because you can throw money at the bottom. That was Artie's thing, right? He never really had a problem until the money's gone.
Do you think Artie's actually out of money now, Arm?
I would love to know what his money situation is. I don't know if fourth floor or beer league residuals is keeping him afloat. I don't, as far as we know, he's not doing any stand-up dates. I don't know if he saved well. I don't know if I'm spending a ton other than gambling. Like, what did he really spend on?
Yeah, and I remember him saying that he was making, I don't know, $1 million working for Howard. Of course, Howard's making $90 million at that point. And
he's the reason Sirius happened. Yeah, he should get $1 million.
Exactly. But and he was saying he was making like 3 times that on the road. So I think he was making about $4 million a year. So even if he could have put aside, say 2 or 3 million that he never touched at 10% or 9% a year, if he's got a decent guy investing for him, he should still have enough money to be comfortable, right? And I think he bought a house for his mom too, and he could live there. And with, a couple $100,000 coming in at least every year.
No,
I think he's got money.
His needs are very small. He doesn't require multiple cars. He doesn't have any of that stuff. I mean, he has some, gambling addictions, but I don't see him burning through all that. I've heard people. There's such a Schadenfreude world we live in. People want him to be broke. You ever get people just like they really like revel in his misfortunes? Like, what did Artie do to you that you would root for him to be broke?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's the whole drug war thing. And I know you probably don't want to get too political, but people have been brought up to believe that anybody who does drugs, anybody who's an addict is a horrible person. And you almost want to root against them, right? Until you can say, oh, they're clean now, so they should be able to have something. But until then, people want them to be broke. People want them to have nothing because they have so much hatred for anybody who's an addict. That's just the way that it is, I think, man. And I believe I'm big. I can't stand the drug war. I think it's one of the biggest follies to ever befold modern Western civilization. But I think that's the way people look at somebody like Artie, that he shouldn't have money. He shouldn't be allowed to get high. They want him to fail. And Howard wants everybody to fail, I think.
Yeah, he's King Schadenfreude. Absolutely.
Everybody that works for him.
That's why he asks people about money all the time. He wants to make sure he's making more than you. That's the only reason he does it. He needs to know that he's making 10 times more than Kate Hudson when she comes in.
And I mean, this better than anybody. What it costs to live in New York City is obscene.
Yeah.
And what he pays his people, I bet you not many of them make over $100,000 a year, which means hardly any of them can afford to live in the city that they work in, right? It's nuts. And he revels in that fact that everybody that works for him really desperately needs him, because they're kept so close to the poverty line that, that they're right on the edge. If they get fired tomorrow, they're done. They don't have any savings. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, Sarah and Kate from the Radio Gun the mockery thread said the same thing. Sarah, you compared him to Marcy and all these people to Elvis's manager.
Uh,
Colonel
wouldn't you compare Buckwald to Colonel Parker?
Well, Marcy too. Like they trick Howard into thinking he's better than ever. The show is great. It's unbelievable. Don't listen to the haters. Blah blah blah. Keep yourself insulated
Well, of
from it.
course, because you want to be the only influence.
Well, the con goes on, and they don't have a job if he goes off. So you make life
Yeah.
as easy for him as possible with things like keep Howard happy, literally where it's the easiest job in all of show business. That's why he can't handle anything, including something as a fucking Gong Show knockoff like America's Got Talent was too much, because this job is so easy.
Mhm.
And it's the Colonel. Now, Elvis's last days is actually an insult. You know, Elvis. I'm sure Elvis's last days is way better than what Howard is now. And I don't even know Elvis that well.
I think Elvis's last day that ended on the toilet, he found more happiness than Howard found yesterday.
The true fart, man.
Did
Lauren
you
Marie
ever
Wright-
watch? Oh, sorry.
Go. No, go.
I was going to ask you if you ever watched any of those shows, like AGT or Dancing
No, I
Stars.
didn't.
Yeah,
or
yes,
any
I
of
had a
that stuff?
morbid curiosity in the beginning, and it became hate watch very quickly.
Okay.
I didn't
Because
watch 1 second, and I'm very proud of myself.
for me, I don't know how any man who's not, effeminate, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know how any man, and I put it in you've commented on it before, with actual testicular provenance
Yeah,
could
you love
watch,
that. You love it.
could
All these
watch a
provinces,
show like Dancing Stars or AGT. I couldn't spend 1 minute. I couldn't even be with a woman who could spend a minute watching that trash.
Yeah,
I think it's just utter garbage. And I mean, I know my sister watches that sort of thing, and I laugh at my brother-in-law all the time for having to put up with that crap. But it's just ridiculous. I could never watch that trash, not for a minute.
It's fixed. It's fixed. They've had people to do the show that have come out and said that they had it predetermined before they went in. They killed and then just never got called back. It's completely fixed. There's not what the decisions the judges made no impact at all. It's fixed. It's predetermined. That's the worst part. It's not even. It's a Gong Show knockoff. It's the worst thing you could possibly do. It's the laziest gig in show business. It's absolute garbage. You're absolutely right. It's
Not
the
even.
worst thing you could. And they didn't even get the Howard you thought they were getting. Right? You got this namby-pamby, sterilized version, and that's what they hired him to be, the Stern you knew from the 90s.
Yeah, but Jackie wasn't whispering in his ear anymore. As soon as Jackie stopped whispering in his ear, he wasn't that person anymore. And people didn't get it was Artie after that who carried the comedy. Without Jackie whispering in his ear, this fucking 79 has nothing to say. It's like when he asked people the same stupid questions. He had Robert Plant on, what was going through your mind when you're writing this song? Like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever. Who gives a shit? And how's this guy going to remember? He wrote the song 50 years ago, you moron.
Like, he was high on cocaine.
And, and to come up with something intelligent to talk to the person about. And that's why I hate interviews too, though, man. Like I can't listen to a celebrity interview.
This is the new Howard. This is John Hine writing him automaton questions. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get the same out of a holster cliches. Where do you put your awards? What do you think of when you write this song? And then if he's not doing that, he's doing pop psychology 101 from a psychiatrist, your father hunger and all that bullshit. So you know exactly what he's going to say every interview now. This is it's John Hine writing him questions. That's why. Lauren Marie writes, hey, by the way, she agrees with Sarah. Whoever styled him in the Fenty fashion show deserves an award. I can't believe how good he looks. What an amazing transformation. He looks 10 years younger. You agree with her, right, Sarah?
I don't really, I just don't like the design or the execution of the sewing in the garment. I know, sorry, boys. But I swear to God, and I got blasted in comments on a video. He's had some kind of chemical peel on his face or something. He's very smooth now, and he does look much younger.
The only way I would defend that is it's the job of an actor is to look a certain way. So if you're going to have vanity, it's someone like that, and especially a chameleon like him. His job is to be, a perpetual Peter Pan complex and to be almost ageless.
John O'Reilly, thank you for the 10. He's donating to Arms Kirkland Fund. Always good.
Yeah, G Canada loves to make fun of my Costco hot dogs and triple whoppers.
He talks about being a guy who's he talks about being a guy who's into, getting healthy, and I was really into running and all this stuff. And you eat all this shit food, Arm. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm a walking contradiction. The dichotomy of someone who does that. That's the reason to do it. Why would I eat kale? Yeah.
The triple whoppers, the Costco hot dogs, the fried chicken from Walmart. I didn't even know Walmart had fried chicken. Like, are you kidding me? Do you ever cook a decent meal besides pizza? I've heard you talk about cooking pizza, but do you ever cook anything that anybody would eat? Like, have you ever made a roast beef or I don't know, like a turkey or a chicken or smoked something?
Last night I had a 12-pack of kale-flavored Labatt's, and I drank the whole thing. It was just, I had all the riboflavin and vitamin from kale, but I had the beer taste of Canadian Labatt's.
So Labatt's is like the company name, right? Like Labatt's puts out a billion different kinds of, there's Blue, there's 50, there's Budweiser made under Labatt's. So when you say Labatt's, it's kind of off,
Well, in America, it's called Labatt's. It's actually
really
that's on the label. Yeah, on the label. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I'm wrong. Sorry.
No, it's different. It's packaged different. That's okay. John O'Reilly says in Huntington, no one knew who Jeff Beck was. This is what I imagine. You have this gaggle of Deptford wives and Jeff Beck, who's almost 80. I don't know who he is. I mean, I knew he was a legendary guitarist. I knew, but he's just like a sort of an ultimate like lone wolf free agent where he jumps from band to band and people just want to play with. You can't do that anymore in the music industry. Be this lone wolf guitarist. So what are these Deptford wives who latched onto him in the mid 2000s going to get out of Jeff Beck? It's so bizarre. It's so phony.
Well, the weird thing is in our comments for our videos, we have the Jeff Beck wives who will defend him at any cost and tell us we suck because we don't care about Jeff Beck.
Well, believe me, those are all Deptford wives that are just calling themselves Beck wives because anything that Johnny's related to has to be amazing, right? So if you're saying Hunter S. Thompson sucks and this was his best friend, then you're an asshole. We're a Thompson wife, we're a Beck wife, we're a whatever. It's just like herd husbands and my group of millions and millions of men everywhere who wants to be a part of the herd husbands.
I hate men. I hate men.
Vindicate Amber. That's all I got to say. UK court got it right. I can't wait till Johnny has to pay her $100 million.
When I saw that hashtag, I think you did it in one of our trial streams. I was laughing for into the weekend because it's just so nobody would on Twitter that is just like you're gonna get. It's so it's the complete epitome of contrarian. A hashtag that says "Herd Husbands Unite." I mean,
sorry. You had so many fans, like people who are just so into Johnny Depp that were so like, I'm a villain now because I would even think that, right? Like Johnny doesn't give a shit about you. Just like Amber doesn't give a shit about me. They wouldn't piss on us if we were on fire. To be that intertwined, to think that it matters to you, I can't understand that. I'll never understand that. I'll never understand somebody that thinks that way. I'll never understand a Deptford wife. And that's why I put those tags out there, because it's nothing I could ever comprehend in a million years.
David writes, when Howard calls a female caller honey, it's code for I'm actually calling you a cunt. That's so right, David. Honey is the most condescending thing in the world. It's very, very difficult to deliver that line and sound earnest.
He's angry at women because he wants to be one, and he wasn't born one.
John O'Reilly says, you actually hit the bottom with money is when the IRS comes a calling. And he did have that, John O'Reilly, in the Tracy Jacobs trips. There was many IRS, and we actually have the lawyer, his management team. So there was a ton of IRS. But again, he's never, he had to line stuff up and he had to pay them. But the IRS loves the fees, right? Don't they love the late fees? They want you to fuck up, right? It's like we talk about with the motor vehicle bureau, Sarah. When they want you to speed, they want you to drive drunk, they want you in the system. What would happen if everybody just behaved? Right? They had no money going in for fines, and what would happen?
Yeah, I agree. That's how they pay for the roads.
Well, yeah, I've heard about Rust Belt towns, right? Like, because this is where I'm close to, Buffalo, Cleveland, places in Ohio, Detroit. And this is what the police do. They sit on these roads all day and they put out minimum fines. So if you're like 2 miles per hour over, you're going to get a $75 fine for speeding, right? And it's like a property tax in places where they can't get enough tax revenue anymore. Right. And they've turned police into just, that's what they do all day long, right? They make money.
Meter maids, and it's not an anti-cop thing, but there are these towns where like some freaking hick town in I don't know, like Arkansas, where a cop gets paid more than a New York City cop, and he literally makes like 3 arrests all year. Like the Boss Hog, Roscoe Pico train cops, these corrupt cops, and the city cop who's 20 times busier than that guy, if not more, is getting 1/2 the salary. And it's the whole business.
But the thing is the U.S. has like a prison population problem. Like you guys incarcerate like twice as many people or 3 times as many people as China, and China has 5 times your population. It's supposed to be considered an oppressive state. It's huge business. When you look at what happened in upstate New York, and that's what I'm most familiar with, right? It's right across, it's 10 minutes from me. There's dozens of jails of every kind. There's federal jails, there's state jails, there's local jails, and they put them all in upstate New York, and all the industry has moved out of Buffalo. Like they're gone. Buffalo was one of the top 10 largest cities in North America 100 years ago, and it's not even in the top 40 in the U.S. now. But they've replaced all this stuff with jails. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the U.S. just the prison population in the U.S. is unbelievably huge. It's incredible when you think about when you look at the list of how many percentage wise, like how many per 100 or how many per 1,000 people or 100,000 per people in jail. They hold like the top 100 spots when you include every state. It's unbelievable. Nobody's even close to it. So these guys are getting paid that down there because they're putting people in jail. And the sheriffs own the jails, the judges own the jails, and everything else, right?
They want you to fuck up. They want, well, like I just said, just simply, what would happen if everybody just behaved and did the right thing, and nobody fucked up, and nobody committed a crime, and nobody drove drunk, and nobody made a right on red, and nobody went through it? What would happen if everybody just collectively just did the right thing at the same time? They love when you fuck up. There's just no question about it. Brendan says, Artie's residuals from Elf were pretty nice around the holidays. That's right. That's right. He did talk about the Elf. I wonder what he still gets from that. That's actually one of the big scenes in that movie. It's a huge Christmas movie now, too.
Do you think he would still get money out of that? Like, do you think they send him a check for $100 every year or something?
It's probably like ironclad in his contract that he gets. It's part of the Screen Actors Guild. When they get certified in the Screen Actors Guild, that the residual, they call it, Jackie Martling calls it mailbox money, right? Like the Writers Guild was all, they had the strike, and it was like, you just want to get paid for nothing. It'd be like if you built, the comparison was, does a construction worker get paid for the amount of times you walk down the sidewalk when he builds a sidewalk? Like the writer wants residuals. It's like, well, you are I hate to break it to you, but you're very replaceable. There's people on the internet that write better jokes than you all day long. You're very replaceable.
Sweet. I can't wait for my residuals for this show to be coming in 30 years from now. I'll be waiting by the mailbox every day. For Arm to be sending me my check.
So there were other shrapnel personalities in show business brought into this anti-American thing. Bill Maher was one of them. And this is Bill Maher arguing with Howard about 9/11. And Bill Maher goes on the show and gets kind of ambushed. So this is how that goes.
Bill, there is nothing, in no way, unless you were making a joke, which I don't think you were, there is no way that a guy who gets on a plane and attacks defenseless people is brave. There's nothing brave about it.
But I didn't say that.
And there is no way that we are cowards for lopping bombs, because I'll tell you something. If I go in the military, which I'm a chicken ass, I never went in the military. I was scared.
I don't think Bill did either.
I don't think Bill did either.
All right, can we put this in context for people?
Can I just finish saying this? Yeah. And then I'm going to let you talk. I'm just telling you, lopping a bomb is a perfectly reasonable way to wipe out the enemy and not risk our lives. And I don't think that's cowardly. I think it's a response to a coward. All right, go ahead. So now you talk.
Except it didn't wipe out the enemy.
All right, but tell us.
Well, maybe it didn't, but so what? I mean, so let's lop a few bombs.
All right, here's what happened. Do you know Dinesh D'Souza? He was the guest who was on our show. He's a conservative commentator, and he was...
Thanks, John O'Reilly. Just a little context. We talked about the IRS before. He writes, and he deals with this. I mean, he doesn't just know every great steakhouse in North Virginia, this guy. He writes, sure, IRS fees and penalties both. The amount paid to the IRS after audit is about 60% charges by the IRS and then the tax liability with you. Thank you, John. And that's exactly what happened to Depp. He had an insane late fees that he paid, which was all part of it. I'd love to know what his situation is now, right, Sarah? I mean, where we had a year by year breakdown of his money, and there was a weird thing, almost like Sarah's thing when she tried to track the Stern donation, and it said, what was it, Sarah? $12 million paid back to him, and we believe that's his managers losing the lawsuit.
Yeah, he wouldn't. Well, had he lost, he wouldn't have gotten anything back. But he's probably good still for 100 million these days.
He's still private from town to town.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, I don't know. You know, we heard figures of what he was getting per head at these shows. It's got to be worth it for him to go, but there's no way you can go to private jet to PJ, as it were, and then go to friggin' first class and Spirit Airline. No, they don't even have first class. So this is not. So the first priority is having the private jet. So he's at a level where you can still do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd love to know where he's at right now. Someday we'll know. Kylo Sierra Alpha says, not only did they make money from fines, but they seize your property too. There's a massive scandal around that. Cops are abusing their power, and it's no different from gangs. That's right, Kylo. And I might say this might be a stretch. I don't think it is. I don't give a shit. I think they like you homeless too. What do you think about that? If your roof and property can get seized so easily, we like homeless, don't we? We don't seem to have any solutions for it. We like problems. It just seems like I'm all into that conspiracy thing. There's just no end in sight, and it just. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I think that Kilo's talking about the civil asset forfeiture that they're doing in some places, right? Where a police pulls you over, you've got $5,000 in the car, and they run a dog around it, and we all know that a dog hitting on a car is total bullshit. They've done studies on it. A dog is as good as a coin flip, but for some reason it still gives them permission to look into your car, right? And search it. So they find $5,000. And say you're moving to LA, and that $5,000's for first and last month's rent, whatever, and they take it. And then you have to prove why you have it and all this stuff. You got to get a lawyer, you got to go to court. Is it even worth it for $5,000? And these cops are buying, all kinds of stuff for their clubhouses with it. Like, it's been so ridiculous. The amount of corruption and goes on with it is outrageous. I don't know how they ever allowed it to begin with, or why they still do it, but it's horrible.
What happens to the money exactly that gets seized? Like, where does it really go when it doesn't go back to them? But I'm just saying too, like, it's always take your house, take your property too. It's always something that's going to lead to, and then we could, how is there so many homeless people?
Well, the cash is split 50-50 between the federal government and the police that steal it.
Okay.
Or, pardon me, between the police that apprehend it, whatever you want to call it. But they get half of this money. So there's an actual financial incentive for them to take this money from people, right?
Good point.
Like, it's obscene.
Yep. That's a really good point. It's really tough to refute that. This is back to Bill.
Saying that, people are saying that these guys who attacked the buildings are cowards. He said, basically, they may be many things and we hate them.
Let me just pick context. So Bill Maher got fired from ABC's politically, this is in the title, politically incorrect, for being politically incorrect. And his statement basically was, the terrorists are many things, but they weren't cowards. They were willing to kill themselves in a plane for what they believed in. As scum of the earth as they are, they're not cowards. And he got fired from that at a time when everybody had to be just rah rah, America, fuck yeah. And so he had the balls to be politically incorrect on a show called Politically Incorrect on the Disney owned ABC and got fired. And Mr. Free Speech, First Amendment martyr doesn't really have his back. And Howard's going to say, well, just something worse.
And we do hate them, and what they did was despicable, and they're barbarians, but they're not cowards because they, in their view, are engaged in a war, and they were conducting a military exercise in that war. I agree it's despicable to conduct it against civilians, but warfare does that. Even we have done that. Sherman's march through Atlanta was against civilians. And he said, because they didn't turn back, because they completed their mission, you can call them a lot of things, but you really can't call them cowards.
Right, and I would disagree with that statement that he made. Because that's what I would do if I was on Twitter. I'd say, jackass.
Builder.
What would you say?
I would say that they were barbarians and moral cowards, but not physical cowards. And that's what matters in a war, is whether you're going to have an army that runs or an army that does what it does to you. And then I said, and I have it here, I have the quote, I said, we have been the cowards lobbing cruise missiles from 2,000 miles away. Now, I shouldn't have said we, because that's vague, and some people try to turn that around, knowing better, but still trying to fan a flame, into me calling the military cowards. And, of course, I was never referring to the military itself. I was referring to the policymakers and the political leadership who were afraid of the civilian society that would turn against them if they lost any military lives, and therefore they fought this war against terrorism, all through the 90s from afar, and it didn't get the job done. When they blew up our embassies in Africa, and I know Africa's a long way away, so it shouldn't matter that much, right? But it does matter, and those were our embassies, and that was our American soil, and people died on that soil.
See, I disagree with you. I think what you meant was what you said. I think you said...
Yeah, he's doing a lot of explaining here that he didn't do that.
I think you need to say that.
Whether you agree with Maher or Howard during this is a much different Stern show than you're hearing. You'll never hear this debate on this current show again. There were pushback. It was wild. You could do stuff like this. He'd have random people calling in like this. Bill's actually, I think it's 4 a.m. LA time when he's calling in here.
I forgot how annoying Robin was. She won't talk to the person directly. She'll talk through Howard.
Yes.
Like she'll just ignore them. She won't address them directly. And I don't know why she does that, but it's just probably just so she doesn't have to be held accountable in her mind for what she's saying.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's perfectly said, Sarah. You're absolutely right. John O'Reilly says that a lawsuit with the IRS is one of the very few legal proceedings where the potential liability can be seized before there's even a trial. Even if you dispute tax liability, the IRS will take money before the trial. That's scary shit. Will take your money before the trial even starts. I did not know that. Thank you, John. Once again.
And that's what you meant, but I don't think that's what you meant. I think what you meant was, and I think you meant what you said. I think you said that, listen, it's cowardly to bomb from in other words, it seems, and on the surface, what you...
And A simply says, people try to get so academic with war, but basically the bottom line is it's really just male mental illness, toxic masculinity. I agree with you, NA, for the most part. I do think 70% of it is exactly that. I couldn't agree more. Well, I said 70%. Maybe I don't know. I'm ballless by not going the full 100, but I think that's really well said.
Your thinking is it seems a lot braver to take a plane and drive it into a building. My opinion is that's so cowardly because you're not fighting anyone. You're fighting a building.
Who are you fighting,
you're willing to die. You're suicidal. So that means you're insane. But you're not heroic. Heroic is, is the guy who walks into the burning building to save the people.
Suicidal is not always insane, okay?
Oh, I think it is.
It's got to be.
It's got to be. You're
so
really...
the soldier, wait a second, so the soldier...
That's Artie's voice in the background. He's just hired here. So he's now a full-time employee. He just got hired.
My least favorite era of Artie. The new hire Artie, where he just laps Howard's balls.
Eager to please. Yeah. That's true. He was funny, but you're absolutely right. He was very obsequious during this time, and he gets more and more jaded. He also just hated getting up for the show. He hated those hours. You knew it from day one.
In battle who dives on a grenade, that's insane.
That's not suicide.
That's not suicide.
Well,
That's a guy trying to protect
No,
other
it's not.
people.
That's the guy giving his life to save others.
Suicide is driving a plane into a wall where you have, you know what? To me, a hero is somebody who actually...
Deciding to die and taking others with you, that's a homicide along with suicide.
But this is not a brave act. To say this is brave, I know what you're saying. Listen, Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now gives a beautiful, brilliant speech about how...
It was a little
The point is that that's true, but the fact of the matter is, we are not... When we say we are cowards, that means the United States military is cowardly because we lop bombs. There's nothing wrong with lopping a bomb. In fact, I wish we could press a button and blow up every goddamn friggin' terrorist nation and do it by robot so none of us have to die. It's not cowardly. It's called fighting warfare the best way you know how.
Well, the best way we know how has done a pretty lousy job of it, and I disagree.
Wrong. Hiroshima, beautiful job of it. Boy, the Japs really behaved after that. Now they make sushi and they give us massages with their feet. The bomb, Harry Truman was right to light a bomb under their ass.
What's there?
He's hilarious.
You see now, I'm going to blow up the whole Middle East. That's his generalization. That's the chicken hawk. That's Howard's solution to it. So Maher remembers this. Let me finish this.
And look how they behave.
That was a completely different situation.
No, it isn't.
We have been bowing to world opinion, but I don't necessarily know that that's cowardly.
Look, this fight against terrorism is going on for a long time, and we should have been attacking it in a completely different way.
Absolutely, but that's got nothing to do with...
And right now, we have finally come to the conclusion that, as you know what, George Bush said pretty much the same thing. He said, I'm not going to waste time and send some cruise missile up a camel's butt or something like that.
Right.
What he was saying was that, if you want to kill the rat in the sewer, you're going to have to get into the sewer and do the job. Now, I never was implying that, and by the way, nobody thought I was the night I said this because I had 12 different press outlets.
And he's making... Can somebody shut up Patton and Eisenhower over here? Military strategist Howard and Bill Maher.
In my green room after the show, and nobody made one comment about this until 2 days later when some disc jockeys in Houston started to talk about it and tried to pin me to this comment that I was saying that the military was cowardly, which is ridiculous. I've always defended the military on my show.
Well, I have been a victim.
It's not they who give the orders.
I have been a victim of saying things on the air and people try to pin stuff on me. So I'm the first guy to empathize with you, and I don't, and I know when sometimes you mean something, stuff comes out the wrong way.
Right.
And maybe that's what you're saying.
If I had
How did these disc jockeys...
Could I just finish, please?
Wait a minute, though. I want to know how these disc jockeys found out about the statement you made.
What do you mean? I suppose they watched the show.
So they didn't read it in the newspaper first.
Right, exactly.
Right, so they didn't read it.
So this goes on, and they bring in Stephen Baldwin. I'm going to put this whole in. Kylo Sierra Alpha says, "Hey, Arm, please cut this out. WikiClip, put it on Twitter." I will do that, Kylo, but I'm also going to put the whole interview on our Patreon. It's 55 minutes. And what happens after this is Crazy Cabby and Stephen Baldwin call in, and then Gary comes in, and then who else? Sarah, you heard this, right? It was John comes in, and they all pile on poor Bill on the phone.
Yeah, that's their job.
And you can drown him out because he's on the phone. And they all do this kind of chicken hawk, stolen valor bullshit with no logic behind it, as idiots want to do. And the whole argument's phenomenal radio, to be honest. And I'm going to put that on Patreon probably right after this.
Okay.
I don't think people...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think people understand the actual might of the U.S. military. Like, it's incredible. It is the most powerful force in the history of the world. I mean, we just saw it in Ukraine, right? When the Russians had that 40-mile convoy that was stopped and they were just sitting there on the road, if they were fighting the Americans, that would have been 40 miles of smoldering rubble. Like, they could have dropped a bomb on every single one of those from a million miles away. Some kid in Denver playing a video game is all it would take. Like, the military might of the United States is incredible. When you realize they have more aircraft carriers than the rest of the world combined, just things like that. It's the second biggest air force in the world is the U.S. Navy. Like it's incredible. If they wanted to go into the Middle East and level the whole place, they could do it in a heartbeat. It's not about that. It's because you have to kill everybody that way, I think is what Bill's saying, right? Like, you know, the only way you can fight the Americans is to fight like a guerrilla type warfare where you blend in with the people. That you can't line people up and fight the Americans. You just all be dead in a heartbeat.
No,
just
that's
like
exactly what he's saying.
Just like what happened when they went into Iraq. I mean, these guys are jumping out of tanks because they're watching one after another get blown up, and there's nobody around. I mean, these missiles are coming in from hundreds of miles away and hitting right on the tank. So they're getting out of their tanks and running away. That's why it only took 2 days to run over the whole country. And they had the biggest military in the Middle East. Right?
Taffy writes, the creator of baloney tossing on someone's ass wants to bomb the Middle East. I'll take that advice. Stern he writes, Stern had a yellow ribbon bumper sticker in his limo. Leave him alone. Dennis Denzlov, yeah, bet we want some more Johnny. You're going to have that. So what this, as he says this here, what Eva G. Canada just says, Depp, kind of rightly, maybe it's a little strong, but it uses a little Thompson prose. He gets, well, before I get to this, I was going to show you so right after this, Bill Maher hits back very, very quickly on his own show on HBO. And this has been with him for years, and he brings it up to his panel. Watch this.
Left, and I think that's really problematic.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was on Howard Stern defending myself after September 11th. And Howard Stern said, well, I was defending my crazy comments. He said, I think we should drop a nuclear bomb on a Muslim country. I don't care which Muslim country. It doesn't matter. Just any Muslim country. Just drop a nuclear bomb, throw a dart at the map, and drop a nuclear bomb. That's okay.
Yeah, Jackie wrote that for him.
All right, now.
Little Dennis Miller cameo, G Canada right there. That's pretty good double team by that. That was good. That was good. That stayed with Maher for a very long time, and they hit Howard very nicely. And I don't know if you listened to the Stern show that day, but he played that, and you could tell he was pissed.
Oh, that was hilarious, man.
Yep.
Dennis Miller's never looked so attractive as that when he spouted that line.
Okay, so I gotta ask her. You were doing the Dennis D. Miller thing before, and the guy would type.
No, that's not me. You're wrong.
It wasn't you.
Nope. No.
Okay.
The guy just knew Miller's rhythms, which isn't that tough to do. But I would see him, and I'm go, wow, this guy, and it was like him getting written for, and I would just read it, as he was called Dennis D. Miller. I remember that. He changed his name all the time. I'm still not sure who that is.
He was your own personal Jackie. No, it wasn't me, man. I thought it was you typing it in and then saying it.
Okay, Doug Denslow, we're getting back to Depp, and I'm glad that you are. Look, nobody gets accused more than opening the Depp portal more than me, right, Sarah?
Correct, but I'm very happy we have Doug on here to keep you in line because I wanted more Johnny too.
This is Gary Delabate officially not being able to book Depp for the show, as you just heard. After this, so this is a little bit after this. This is the summer when Pirates 1 comes out. Johnny Depp is coming around promoting stuff. Gary decides, let me try to book Depp the day he comes into New York instead of maybe do it like a week or two in advance. And Gary officially admits how bad of a producer he is. I used to defend Gary all the time. Those days are over.
Joins us.
Oh, Adam, will he be here or is he on that line again?
The line.
Oh, okay.
But we'll pretend he's here.
That's the ISDS line, the ISDN line. All the way back in 2003, they had that technology where you could pretend you're in the same room as someone.
All right.
Gary called Kate Hudson's. I was thinking about this Kate Hudson.
Okay. Kate Hudson's also lumped into the anti-Depp, anti-American sentiment. So they're lumped in because she had those comments. I'll get to that later. But Kate Hudson was quoted as saying why America's hated, and she got shit for that.
Goldie Hawn's daughter,
Yeah.
I guess he called to have her on as a guest, and I've met her once or twice. And
she's done the show.
Yeah, I even met her off the air. I was at a party with her. She's a nice enough girl, but think about it. I was reading she's going to get $7 million for her next film. What film has she been in that she exhibited any kind of draw or talent. I mean,
I'm with Howard here. I don't know how she could demand that. There's a lot of actresses or actors like that where they get this weird salary. You're going, how do you justify that salary for what it brought in? I'm with them there.
Hollywood is the weirdest place. They will start giving you work even on a perceived notion that you're hot. I mean, do you know anybody who goes to Kate Hudson movies yet?
I was thinking the same thing about Elizabeth Hurley. This woman has never attracted one person into a theater, but she keeps making movies.
Well, if you want to throw a name in there, go with Ben Affleck.
I know.
What has he ever done?
But Kate Hudson is $7 million a film, and we're still wondering what film Gwyneth Paltrow gets a lot of money for a film, and even she's depressed that she can't attract an audience.
Right. Wasn't Kate Hudson's big movie going to be 10 Things About Dating?
Yeah.
And that one came and went.
I know. And now our next...
And they wonder why they don't get guests there. He just eviscerated 6 broads in a row, and he's like, why can't we book Gwyneth Paltrow?
Film is going to be $7 million. And by the way, she turned us down for an interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well.
How do you love that?
Excuse us.
I guess
she's too big. She got an Academy Award, you know.
We spoke to Johnny Depp. Yeah, for a movie she was barely doing anything.
Wait a second, she won that? She didn't win that.
Yeah, she won.
She won.
She won?
That's maybe why she gets the $7 million, but that movie wasn't even one of the good movies that what's his name direct?
Oh,
it's a good movie.
Famous was good. Come on.
That's a good movie.
Oh, yeah, that was a good movie. But she was, what did she do in it, though?
She was hardly in it.
I know. Smelly bitch, smelly bitch, smelly bitch, smelly bitch, smelly bitch.
Goldie Hawn's daughter.
Goldie Hawn's daughter, smelly bitch. Goldie Hawn's daughter. All right, I'm that guy. I really call in to do that. The other guy, Johnny Depp, who we spoke to him on the phone. We interviewed him. It was a pretty good interview, and he said he'd come in the next time he was in New York. I guess he's in New York, but he turned us down.
No, I haven't called him yet.
Oh, you haven't?
I'll call him today.
Okay.
Because he did say he would come in.
He did.
So Bruce Willis passed on us.
Oh, really? He's too big a star.
You know, he said he likes, you were wondering how he feels about Demi Moore and...
So Gary hasn't called him yet. It's Wednesday. He's coming in to promote on Letterman, I think, Friday. Why haven't you called him? What is your job?
He was taking a nap. Leave him alone.
This is why Gary gets the shit he does.
He's
why
not,
on earth?
You can. I was on Gary's side a lot in those days too. I felt bad for him, but you look back at that shit, you can't defend Gary whatsoever.
Not that.
He is
That's
shit
a huge
producer.
miss. You missed getting Depp in the studio because you're waiting till Wednesday to call him when he's coming in on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So Pirates comes out and Robin sees it and nobody else does. And Robin is fawning over Depp. Now just keep this in mind when we just kind of do like a progression here. This is like Pirates hits and it's a huge hit. Pirates won. And this is Robin.
Boy, I'm over Charlize Theron. They had pictures of her without her makeup on.
Yeah, I left in deliberately him bashing other actors who he's very friendly with now, who do his show, and him just like you said, sir, he wants to be a teen girl, and he's always jealous of this is Charlize Theron, by the way, preparing for the movie Monster, and Howard's critiquing her looks as she's preparing for Monster here.
And she's got tons of zits all over her face.
Really?
It's amazing how ugly she looks.
She's so ugly.
Oh, John.
It's like, you know what? What am I getting all worked up for?
And then they showed her on vacation with her boyfriend. She had like a bit of a gut.
Yeah.
You know what? After they showed those pictures of Cameron Diaz with the zits, I never looked at her the same.
Me neither.
I'm always looking
John
for the
with
whenever I
Hey,
see a
so
picture
you're a
like
hot
they
chick?
cover-
John,
Go ahead,
with
Sarah.
the physique of a potato, has the balls to critique anyone's looks.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, oh my God, this is what drives me so nuts about him. If you're not 100,000,000% skinny, like 15 pounds underweight as a woman, to Howard, you're overweight. You've got a bit of a gut, you got chubby thighs, you got a big ass, whatever, right? For me, myself, I would always rather look at a woman who was 15 pounds overweight than one that was like 10 pounds underweight. I'm so grossed out by really skinny chicks. It's not even funny.
You mean you don't want to see somebody's rib cage in their chest
No,
or on their back?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I find it like repulsive, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
go ahead, Jay.
who did he just call? Who did he just say
Cameron,
had the gun?
Cameron Diaz, Charlize Theron.
Oh yeah, no, it was
Theron's-
Charlize. He's saying Charlize has a gun. I mean, one of the most gorgeous women in the history of the world, and he's saying she's fat. And who cares? Even if she was a little chunky, then she's still beautiful. You look at that face, and you're gonna look at her gut and say, "Oh wow, she's 5 pounds overweight." Like, are you kidding me? He's a homo. Like, I'm sorry, David. I don't mean to be derogatory towards gay people, but Howard is gay. If you're looking at that woman and that's what you're thinking, you like cock.
That's right.
You don't like women. Like, there's no way that you could look at her and think she's not gorgeous.
But he's also severely misinformed. All these stupid idiots that work on this show. She's doing the movie Monster. She's supposed to look that way. She won an Oscar for it. They don't even know they're supposed to be tapped into show business. Remember the movie Oscar was supposed to
she was tagged out.
Yeah,
she totally looked tagged out.
Yeah, she had to look like Eileen Wuornos. Look at Eileen Wuornos. My God.
I
she
get it.
still
Yeah.
was 10 times
That's what an actor
more
does. They
beautiful
don't play
than...
themselves in private parts, and they only do that.
Yeah, Theron
I
was,
hear you.
even as Eileen Wuornos, she was 10 times more beautiful than Eileen Wuornos. So go fuck yourself.
So here we go. So this is go.
I was just going to say, like, and I've said before, I've never, I have no concept of pop culture and all that sort of thing. But this is why I've always been interested in your show and in Gunk, because Howard got me. He was the one guy that I watched, the one guy that I paid attention to, the one guy that I thought was anti-culture. And actually, now that Maher is on, like, I used to watch Politically Incorrect. That was the show that I would watch too. But Howard was the one guy that I watched and listened to, and that's where I got whatever knowledge that I had. And the rest of them I didn't care about because I thought he was on our side. I thought he was a regular guy, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, my wife told me 25 years ago he's a phony twat, and I can't stand him. I don't even want to watch him on the TV, and she was so right way back then, and I didn't see it. Like, he faked us all out. Like, he pulled one over on all of us, and I hate myself for it.
Sarah's father told her the same thing watching the E! Show.
Oh, yeah, I would be watching the E! Show. I watched all 4 episodes of the E! Show, even though it repeated later that night. And he would come out and let me watch it, but he would sit there, and when it was over, he would say, "There's something wrong with this guy."
Yeah.
He's like, I don't like him. And I was like, "You're crazy. Whatever. He's hilarious." Yeah.
Yeah,
Listen
and
to your
that's where I
father.
was with my wife back then, because we had that free direct TV, and I wanted to watch it every night from 10 to 11 or whatever. She just hated it. She hated it. She's like, this guy is full of shit.
Your harangue there is exactly what Artie said in his his critique of Howard in the last 10 years since he's been off the show. He said he was counterculture. He could do whatever he wanted to, and he needed to side up with these people. He was always needing to be at that high school jock lunch table, the popular kid lunch table. But he was counterculture, right? He was the only guy that could call out Billy Crystal for being a phony, and all the sacred cow that deserved a tongue lashing.
You just heard it when he went out for dinner. Did you hear how he described that dinner? A nice little showbiz crowd.
Exactly.
That's what it was going to take to get him out. And I forget who was there, Seinfeld and whoever else, but it was going to take 10 showbiz people for Howard to go out. He wasn't going out with his sister and his kids. You know what I mean? It had to be a nice, and what a douche chilling thing to say, a nice little showbiz crowd. Can you imagine saying those words? Like, it's just utterly ridiculous.
Put him up.
Don't walk out of the house without makeup on. You got zits all over your
That's
face.
your job.
Hey, so what happened with Charlie's Angels? I guess it didn't do well.
That's great.
Somebody told me that they were all fighting with each other over. They're all blaming Demi Moore now.
They hate Demi Moore because she got all the attention because she's dating a young guy.
Yeah, I saw yesterday that they're all upset and disappointed that Howard got his wish.
He
It
did.
didn't do well.
They all hate each other. Now their quote's going to go down. It's great.
But do you think Demi Moore's the reason the movie tanked?
No, it's a terrible
movie.
movie.
I want to go. And they're talking about that she's running around doing too much publicity. I mean, they turned down.
Every one of these people he's had on the show in the last 5 years kissing their ass. There's not one time he's not double talking, contradictory, just hypocritical. Every person he's done a 180 on. Everybody you bring up here. And then Depp, does a reverse 180 when Robin gives Depp the ultimate praise for Pirates. It's
Nothing, those three.
Right. I love it.
They turned down one thing.
Finally.
You know what they're saying that her romance with Ashton Kutcher got more press than the movie when she went.
So what? Yeah, but you know what? Finally, those three broads have some adversity in their life.
Yeah.
Their big hit movies sucked and tanked.
And Cameron Diaz now has to deal with those naked pictures.
Yeah,
They're
it's great.
blackmailing her.
And Drew Barrymore has to shut up.
Wow.
We're all such good friends, and Lucy.
And we love each other. We're together all the time.
We're together all the time. You know what? Let's see if you're together now.
Yeah.
The team's always happy when you're winning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Everyone's all happy.
Stay together now.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see you get together now.
She's literally a parrot.
But you know what is good at the movies, and I didn't expect it to be? Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, it looks cool. I'm gonna go see that.
Johnny Depp is incredible. He's just an incredible guy.
In the promos, he looks like a gay pirate.
Yeah, well, he based that character.
Well, that's what it's about. A guy, a pirate, who takes it from behind.
I thought it was a Disney movie.
Actually, his nuts disappear.
When he benches.
I don't know how much Disney it is, because he based the character.
Howard keeps beating to death his butt pirate joke. It's kind of funny the first time, but he can't, of course. Guess who can't stop saying it?
Well, somebody said it to him once, and so he.
Yes.
It's great.
I'm sure you stole that from Jackie too. Right?
Mhm.
Just like Comes Again, which is stolen from Jackie's stand-up album.
On Keith Richard. He just looked at how Keith Richard acted.
I'm a gay pirate. I'm a butt pirate. I'm going to steal your ass.
Absolutely hysterical.
Mr.
And the girls
Butt.
can go and watch Orlando Bloom,
Butt pirate.
who I didn't know was the new heartthrob.
But the girls can't watch Johnny Depp anymore? Was he too old for you or something?
Well, he's not in it to be good looking.
I'm Long John Homo. I'm going to take your booty.
Walk the plank.
Hi.
I'm a switch hitter.
Blame Artie for laughing.
Have you seen the promos for Spy Kids 3?
All right, so we're going to wrap it up soon. I'm going to play a couple more, and then we're going to be done. So the movie comes out, does really well, and there's some Depp anti-American stuff comes along with it. As Pirates comes out, which is because Depp's interviewed so much, he starts trying to fill time in these interviews. So he makes some things that are construed as anti-American comments. And I'm trying to find the first version of this. Give me 1 second. Well, first, his buddy Natalie Maines gets bad mouth. Let's do her second. Let's stick with Depp for now, because it's kind of in the same time frame. Chauncey brings up Depp. U.S. Howard reads. I'm sorry. Okay, Depp's movie is number 1.
It's interesting that the number 1 movie at the box office was the Johnny Depp movie. So, everyone was all pissed off. Johnny Depp said crap about America. We're not going to support him at the box office. And you figured the movie would have made $0. But America will go to any movie. If Hitler starred in it and it was a good movie, they would go. They would go. We love movies. We love movies. And the fact that we're in World War III, and in the middle of World War III, Johnny Depp turns into a traitor and is like Tokyo Rose or something, broadcasting to the world that we're scumbags and we're puppies that bite people.
And our president is stupid and whatever.
Yeah, we're in the middle of World War III. Anybody realize that?
Well, he was.
And in World War II, if you were a traitor in a time of war, like Johnny Depp was, no one would go see a movie with him in it. No one. I'm a big Johnny Depp fan. I love all his work. He's a terrific actor. And, great to watch, and takes a lot of risks and all that cool stuff. But it's just interesting to me that everyone had to run out and see the Johnny Depp movie.
You know what? I'm not sure that it has the level of recognition that you think, that his comments were seen or heard by that many people.
Well, that's disturbing, too.
Yeah, I mean, not even the media picks up on it.
No. I mean, he should be public enemy number 1. We're in World War III. Don't kid yourself. Everyone says, well, President Bush, he's not doing a good job in Iraq. Let me tell you something. The guy's doing a terrific job in that he was willing to take it on. I don't think too many presidents would have.
Listen to what he's saying about Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep in mind, when we do our next show, watch how this flips in 6 months so he can hawk Sirius.
Yeah, not too long either.
And we need Iraq to be under American control. We eventually will turn it over to the Iraqis, but we needed some democracy there. We need a place to go to fight the World War III, which is going to happen eventually. There will be a nuclear weapon of some kind smuggled into this country. It will go off. Many of us will be dead.
Pretty solid prediction, right? He was spot on. That definitely happened.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of nuclear bombs.
Chances are most of it will happen in New York because that's where the highest concentration of Jews and Americans are, and powerful media centers.
Money. Wall Street. The whole thing about America's decadent lifestyle is right here.
When you're taught for, hundreds of years that the Jews are out to get you, Americans hate you, Americans will stop the way of Allah. When you're taught that over years and years and years, when that's bashed into your head and your life is miserable and your government isn't giving you anything except propaganda, there's no wealth being shared, a couple of sheikhs running around with all the oil money, if there is any oil money in that particular country. So now the chickens are coming home to roost, as the great Malcolm X said. The chickens are coming home to roost, baby, and you're going to see it in spades. And World War III, if we were preemptive, we really should begin the bombing now, start the war, and finish it all in the same day, wiping out.
John O'Reilly's right. Bingo. The magic word, Jews. You heard Howard say it. That's the magic word.
Mm-hmm.
It always is.
Millions of civilians, women, children, everyone, and cleaning up the entire area.
And they would be called.
When you are told that your whole world is going to collapse because Americans are out to get you, and that we have to fight a holy war, trust me, we're already in World War III. We just don't know it. We're sitting here like this, President Bush is a guy who, God love him, but the guy can't talk.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. God love him. We got to get that drop for Bon Jovial.
George Bush Jr. is an imbecile. Like, he's got to be one of the stupidest people to ever be president. I mean, his dad has got to be one of the smartest people to ever walk the face of the earth to get that imbecile elected twice. Not just once, but twice. And I'm not sure if a lot of people thought they were voting for the old man again.
Yeah, they basically did, because his father was pulling the strings behind the scene.
Yeah.
The son was the face, and the father was the brains.
And a total imbecile.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you
George
see
Bush.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you go. No, you go.
I was just going to say, you see, when we were talking about 9/11 before, when you see the look on his face when some guy comes over and he's in like a classroom in Texas or something, talking to kids, and he sits there for 10 minutes before he decides to get up. This is the leader of the free world, the most powerful man in the world, and he doesn't know what to do. He just sits there when somebody comes and tells him, and he doesn't get up. He doesn't act right away. Like, you know what I mean? To be that stunned, to be that out of it when you're told, the World Trade Towers just got destroyed, to not jump into action, unbelievable.
He said his excuse for that was because they were reading to children, that he didn't want to upset the children that were in the audience, which I buy maybe 20%, but I do think 80% of it was, oh shit, I actually have to do something right now, and I don't know what to do.
And as
The
John
whole country
O'Reilly
was freaking.
Yep.
Dick Cheney is the guy who told Bush what to do, so he's not there to direct him. That was kind of what Dick Cheney's role was. You thought he was running the country. That was the sentiment. That's what most people thought, or insiders, anyone in the know. The joke on George Bush in America back then, I don't know who said it first. It was John Fogerty. Said George Bush was born on third base and hit a triple.
No.
I don't know if you ever heard that. That was that thing. I don't know who said that first.
Yeah, and didn't Dick Cheney shoot a friend of his in the face by accident too?
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing, and of course it was deemed an accident, which it probably was, but there was no investigation whatsoever that was put into that. But you go back to that time, if you want to put the times in context, you had bands like Pearl Jam. Eddie Vedder would go out at the time, and he had a song called Bush Leaguer, and he would dance out on stage in a George Bush, Jr. mask. And you had Pearl Jam fans who are supposed to be, on the more liberal side, accepting, peace-loving music fans, and he would be booed off stage
Yep.
during
I
those
remember
times.
that. It wasn't just, it was Depp, it was Eddie Vedder, it
Yep.
was the Dixie Chicks, it was Janine Garofalo, it was Bill Maher. All those people ended up being absolutely right, and nobody apologized to them when people like Howard did a flip flop a year later. They got, like Sarah said, they took a huge hit during those years, but they stuck to their guns, and I don't know how informed they were, how they were so well informed, but they were absolutely right.
Well, you
All and
look at Eddie Vedder, you have to applaud him. You know, politics aside, you got to applaud him because when he would finish the song with
Yeah.
these boos raining down, and he would say, "Oh, you didn't like that? Oh well, go into the
Yeah.
next song."
He's a made man too. I mean, what can they do to him at that point? They were
Yeah, of
so
course.
massively huge.
Well, you know, that stage they probably could have been destroyed, but you know, they went on to have 25 more years of a career as a band. So good for
Well, I
him.
mean, the Pacific Northwest is always going to be in his camp, no matter what. I
He's
mean,
the
that's
last. He's the last of our music gods. So yes, he will always
go with
be
that.
raised up, put on his pedestal, rightfully so.
And
All
all
part
his
of that.
good music was still from 25 years ago. I mean,
Oh,
you
shut
know,
up.
he just has to keep playing the same stuff his first few albums were, and everybody loves them. Everything since then's kind of been
You need
downhill.
to
You need to listen to the soundtrack for what's the Sean Penn movie, Sarah?
Into the Wild.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You got to hear that. That's a great soundtrack. Good stuff on that. Couldn't recommend it more. Let me get this.
You know, God love him, but the guy can't talk.
No, he can't.
If he could get on the radio the way I'm getting on the radio right now and would say this, people would get it. People would understand what he is doing. If he was Reagan. And let me tell you something, this idea of building Iraq right now, you forget the $87 billion. You can't build Iraq right now. They're going to blow up every oil well. Remember that Iraq has tons of oil. They should be able to produce about $100 million worth of oil a year in order to pay for their entire infrastructure. The reason they can't is because every time we're going to build an oil well there and get it up and working, terrorists are going to blow it up.
Does anybody have less of a reason to care about oil than Howard? Is anybody doesn't drive? He doesn't have any money problems. Does oil impact anyone less than Howard?
No.
In any way,
He's
shape,
worried
or
about
form?
the price of gas and the helicopter.
That's right.
Well, and
That's-
even
that's-
that, I was going to say this earlier, but you throw a cat on one of those private planes that he takes from Florida to New York and back again 5 times a week. All he has to do is say that that's a business expense for
Yep.
North Shore Animal League. Jesus Christ, and he writes it off. He pays nothing.
Absolutely.
North Shore
There's no
Animal
end
League.
right now. It's time, as Robin says, like in Germany, you level the playing field. And we are in World War III. I hate to break the news to everyone. It's a bummer to hear it on a Monday morning, but that's what we're in.
It really makes me laugh when people say, no, the economy is a bigger problem. There won't be any economy.
There's no economy. There's going to be no grid. There's going to be nothing.
There won't be any of this stuff. You start worrying about that to the exclusion of everything that's going on in the world, and I can guarantee it'll get worse.
The biggest story.
Big part of Trump's success was taking down Jeb Bush. That's right, Dorian Morgan. I forgot about that. Jeb Bush in Florida. That was bizarre. That was totally forgot about that. So I'm gonna end with this clip before and then we're gonna go out. Not that we're going out with this. It's just gonna be our last clip. So this is Johnny Depp versus U.S. Howard Reid's France. Okay, Howard was actually apprised of this by Chauncey Hayden. So Chauncey calls in and he tells Howard what kind of to think about Depp and Kate Hudson, which I kind of just found this and I don't remember hearing this. Chauncey was such a huge, by the way, we should bring him on next week, Sarah, to talk about this, to just hear what he thinks now as opposed to, and just play it for him. He's a good guy. He's been good to Radio Gunk. I certainly like more about Chauncey than he exposed Howard for the scams and the kind of the insider trading stuff. And Chauncey was the biggest nemesis for Howard when he was ahead of us all because he was just calling him out on that stuff before any of us was. So this is Chauncey calling in to Howard about Depp and Kate Hudson.
You were talking about Kate Hudson yesterday.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. One of the greatest things you've ever done is expose her. But you know what? Johnny Depp's no better.
What has he said?
He had something that was just as bad to say.
Well, when you quote people, you better get it right.
Yeah, at least we have her tape.
I have tape. Give me some tape.
Well, if you go on the internet, they have several interviews with him.
Oh yeah,
and it's pretty alarming what he has.
Yeah, so I should say that this interview was done in a magazine. I swear to you, it's called Stern Magazine, and I guess it's a German piece he was doing to promote pirates. And those comments came out of this. So that's what there's no actual audio of him saying this. There's audio of him apologizing for it later, but currently there's no. This wasn't taken out of a tape anywhere in like some weird press junket. This is in a magazine. Chauncey's reading from.
I know he lives outside of the country. He doesn't even want to live here anymore.
Yeah.
At least he's moved.
At least he moved. Kate Hudson should go live with him. He lives in France, Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
you want to know what he had to say?
Yeah.
This is a quote off several interviews that are on the internet. He says, "America is too much of hypocrisy and violence. When I look at what had become the American dream, I just definitively prefer living in France, which is a country more civilized and sophisticated. The war in Iraq was an ugly war that was all about money."
See, I don't mind that. I don't mind him.
Everything. So cut to today, Hans. Everything Depp said there is spot on, but nobody's going to give it. Everything you said there was spot on, and he's getting a lot of his talking points from Thompson and Rolling Stone. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, Howard is a little hesitant to agree with Chauncey there, but I'm thinking the only reason is there's still an opportunity or a chance that Depp's going to be on the show.
Sarah, that's brilliant. They're absolutely
Thank you, I
keeping the
know.
door open because there is a chance at this point. We're still in like July, so Depp had promised he's coming, and they have a lot of mutual friends, and he's hedging his bets.
Saying that. The Kate Hudson thing makes me mental because she gets up there and talks. He's saying he doesn't agree with the policies of American government. I get that. People need to be able to say that.
But if France
What this broad...
than us?
Oh, is that what he said? Sophisticated?
He said
That's not
civilized.
good. Oh, more civilized? No, they're not more civilized.
No, they're weak and they fold.
Yeah, that's absolutely wrong. And I don't have a tape of him saying that. I'm not defending him. I don't even know the guy. I interviewed him once and he was fine. But, I mean, I don't care. I don't give a rat's ass about him. All I know is I got a tape of Kate Hudson saying that we Americans...
Take a look at Depp's wardrobe right there and tell me Howard doesn't give a shit about him. Look at what he's wearing.
Yeah, that's the epitome of cool for Howard.
Ralph stole every single thing off that Depp picture.
And Ralph has that hair now, doesn't he?
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly Ralph's do right now.
That mushroom hair.
I don't give a shit about him. You study and jerk off to pictures of him in Casual Gay Skull all day long. You base every look on what he and Tim Burton do.
Of course we're hated in France. We're gross. We eat. She faults us for eating.
And liking ketchup.
This Kate Hudson stuff's very tough to defend. So I don't. You might agree.
Yeah,
with
I can't. I'm not behind
Okay.
Kate Hudson. I can't stand her.
Well, we'll play that. I haven't heard this tape in years. You remember that famous thing with her, right? And we're eating like ketchup and
Yeah, you
French fries, and of course they hate us.
Sorry, we can't. My mom wasn't Goldie Hawn. I can't put caviar on my freedom fries. I'm sorry.
Her brother, Walter Hudson. Oliver Hudson is a huge Howard superfan, by the way. He does a podcast with Joe Buck.
And like everything's perfect in her world. Why open your mouth like that? Why badmouth us at a time when we're being kicked in the teeth for doing what? Defending the entire world?
And why do we go after Bill Maher when he says something, but when she says something, we don't say a word?
It seems in my mind, and I'm not sure how to explain it, there's a difference between Bill Maher, although Bill Maher has said something disgusting.
He's really all over the top. On the edge of being kicked out.
How we are cowards. Yeah, Bill Maher too.
What he said was that the victims weren't heroes, they were victims. That a hero is someone who gets in a plane and kills himself for a cause.
No, he said he said that they were brave.
Yeah, the brave guys were the guys who took down the World Trade Center.
He said they're brave. I just say they're insane. But getting back to Kate Hudson, and here's the big question. Where is my Kate Hudson tape that we know I'm going to use every day? But I'm sure it's my fault.
So much to Depp's chagrin, he's lumped in with Kate Hudson during this. And when you hear her, Sarah, he got lumped in with Kate. I mean, it was like, this is the company he was keeping. But Depp's comments are quite different than what she says, even if you're taking it from a magazine.
Yeah. Oh.
Have you guys reached out to our publicist to get her on the show?
What? What?
Have you guys reached out to our publicist to get her on the show?
I doubt it. She's not going to come on.
Yeah, right.
She's such a big star. I mean, this
She'd already
for
been
some
on,
reason,
too,
this
by the way,
one gets
on
me
MTV.
because I guess because she's Goldie.
A policy of it's attacking Americans, saying we're ugly creatures.
Yeah, it's really not even attacking the government. It's attacking me and you as human beings. It's right down to the very core. And I think what disgusts me the most is that she's had such a privileged life. One thing you could say is Bill Maher grew up, like a regular person, and Johnny Depp, I don't know where he's from.
He's not
this
from
girl.
Kentucky.
This girl's had every advantage you can get from growing up in this country. I mean, living...
waltz right into a movie career.
If I showed you what Goldie Hawn's Malibu home looks like, where Kate Hudson grew up, you'd kill yourself. You know why you'd kill yourself? Because you'd be so jealous.
Someone do the average. I'm sure Melvin's working on it already before I even said it. The average median income for Rockville Center, Long Island versus Miramar, Florida, and post it in the chat. That's
No,
where Depp's from.
Owensboro.
Originally Owensboro, Kentucky, but then most of it was It's kind of half and half. Miramar, Florida is the second half.
Well, what's interesting too is.
Go ahead.
Sorry, man. I was going to say what's interesting too is that actually Goldie Hawn and Kate Hudson spent a lot of time in Canada in the summer, and right across from my brother-in-law's and his family's cottages and stuff, they had a big place up there. He used to see her in the summer all the time, in the boat, in town, in bars. They were in Canada all the time in the summer.
I was going to ask you about that. I became a man in your brother-in-law's cottages.
Any idea how charmed a life this girl has? Not only is she pretty, not only does she have a...
Oh my God! Look at Melvin. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Median income in 2020.
Residuals.
60,000.
I can't wait for my residuals.
Yeah.
Rockville Center. Median income $60,228 in 2020. That's a COVID year, right? Isn't that even lower than it should be?
Perfect body. She's got a hugely successful mother and stepfather. She's got an incredible career going for no apparent reason. She hasn't done anything to merit the amount of ridiculous money she gets for acting.
I agree with that.
I agree with him on
and
that.
then after all of that, all this country has given her, she's not criticizing the government.
Thank you, Melvin. And Johnny Depp's hometown, Miramar.
Wow. There we
Half
go.
what Howard's is from. $34,790.
And Owensboro is probably half of that.
Probably is half of that. By the way, did you see that Depp visited his father in Owensboro? His dad's living in Owensboro again?
Okay.
I don't know. I can't track his father. I can't track his dad. His dad's younger than his mom, I might add, which was crazy back then. His dad's 6 years younger than his mom. He visited Andrew Morgan in Cincinnati, and he with the Beck show, and then he went and visited his father in Owensboro, and he took pictures on the front lawn with a bunch of neighbors, which I think
it's kind of creepy, man, when you say I can't track somebody's father. I don't know.
I didn't even catch myself saying it. I really deserve what Hawkgirl said about me, and or Batman said about me in Justice League Unlimited.
Wow.
She's criticizing us, the people, for being gross. And here's why we're gross. I got to play it again now that you got me worked up. And don't bring her name.
Thank you, Melvin. Once again, sir, you are Barry Allen level with these searches you do. I can't believe it.
I'd fit right into Owensboro. I'd be like high class there, I guess.
So Melvin shows us that Owensboro, Kentucky, Depp's original hometown, median income $26,000, almost 1/3 of Howard's vaunted Rockville Center.
I think I tap out at 26,200. So look at me living up on the hill.
Our hypotheses were right. I had a feeling.
Up anyway. I want to be done with this, but here.
Times I'll be walking down the street and I'll hear some American and I'll just go, of course they hate us. Of course they can't stand us. We're the most annoying, you know, boisterous creatures in the world. We come in and we eat, you know, mounds of food. We're like, where's the ketchup? And excuse me, you know, and all these things. And you're going, oh, shut up.
We're so ugly and gross. You want to know something?
Well, how different is Kate Hudson really than what G Canada says virtually every time in every chat? It's pretty much the same thing, right?
Kate Hudson can fall into the oceans of Malibu and disappear forever, and I really wouldn't care.
That was. I mean, that's worse than I remember hearing it originally.
And she's such a.
And just mounds of food. It's like, where's the ketchup? That's supposed to be a punchline. Where's the ketchup? So he's like John Hine. You don't have ketchup on anything, honey?
Mm-hmm.
Mounds of food. It's like, excuse me. What does that even mean? Americans run around other countries and yell, excuse me. Melvin writes, F them, dumping mustards on frites.
I don't know.
Frites. Or the Germans dumping mayo on their fries.
Oh.
I've seen it with my own eyes. I'll take the ketchup. Agreed, Melvin.
Oh, man. Mayo's good on everything, Melvin.
Oh.
Canadians love mayo, man. Oh, we put it on
Especially
everything. It's amazing.
really good inside the arteries of your heart.
You put ranch on your pizza, don't you, Sarah?
Oh, I love it. Pepperoni pizza dipped in ranch.
Oh, God, that's disgusting.
Thank you, G.
I only go over the river.
I feel ugly and gross inside. I always have. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of it. I never have felt all that good about who I am. I'm going to tell you something. Excuse me. But I don't need her telling me I'm ugly and gross because I eat French fries with ketchup. You know?
I think that's a real moment from Howard. I think his vanity runs that deep.
Yeah.
I actually believe that. I think most of everything he says is a lie. I believe that. I believe when he's dead ass, as my black friends say, about vanity.
And I wasn't born with a pretty face.
Didn't go to finishing school.
Yeah, you know, I just didn't have that. And you know what? I feel bad enough about myself. I don't need her telling me that the French are superior to me. Because there's no way those snails are more superior than me.
Howard, do you think you have
Believe me, I'll take you through France. This girl goes to France. She's in an expensive hotel.
She's never seen France.
She don't even know what France is. I'll show her some Frenchmen who will rape her ass when she's 9 years old.
Oof.
Let's play that back. Is Kate Hudson on Twitter or anything like that? We make an audio for her to listen to this back.
What is that?
He wants her to be raped.
What is
Kate
that?
Hudson to be
That's the
raped.
Roman
Did
Polanski.
he really just say that?
This is the feminist.
Rape her ass when she's 9 years old?
Yes.
Yeah, because every Frenchman is Roman Polanski.
Roman Polanski was American, wasn't he?
No.
He wasn't even French. That's where he ran after he got in trouble.
He exiled himself. He wanted to be American, and then he's. But you know, there's a clip of Depp defending him. It doesn't look too good. We haven't even played it on here, I don't think yet.
Yeah, we did. We did once.
We did once.
Yep.
It was like an older show.
Yep.
And that's how he met his. It's not even his wife. It's baby mama Vanessa Paradis. That's
The woman who should have been his wife.
Should have been his
instead
wife.
of that demon. Sorry.
Oh, demon. She's beautiful. My sweet, sweet Amber. Leave her alone now.
Do your hashtag, G.
Oh, all right.
What do you got? He dump out on me?
You told me to do my hashtag. I can't do two things at once.
I thought you were going to scream a hashtag. That's okay. You can do it at the end.
Oh, I thought you meant put it on the...
see what goes on in France, those scumbag bastards.
You know what else is awful about that clip? She thinks she's being funny.
France. She's 9 years old. I'll show her some Frenchmen who will rape her ass when she's 9 years old. You should see what goes on in France, those scumbag bastards.
You know what else is awful about that clip? She thinks she's being funny.
Oh,
She thinks she's funny. You're not funny. You're not funny.
Here's what's even better.
You're annoying.
She thinks she's saying something that we haven't heard 50,000 times already. Everyone's always said, you know why the French hate us? Because we go over there and we bombard them with our civilization and we don't take into consideration their civilization. You know what? Excuse me, I'm a tourist. I don't know your civilization.
The term is culture, darling.
Yeah, whatever.
We got the same civilization.
Whatever.
From the
they
biggest
got some sort of rules over in France that we don't.
Go ahead, Sarah.
from the biggest snob in the room. The term is culturalization.
Good, Robin. That was good.
God.
Yeah, the person that can't go to another country for more than 5 minutes before she turns around and comes back. Like when she went to India, she got off the plane, took a look around, and then said, "Screw this, I'm going home."
To be fair, I'd probably do the same thing, but
At least Howard doesn't actually go to these places.
Sarah, you wouldn't get on the plane to go to India in the first place. Like, what's
that's
the
very
point?
true.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not that
Yeah.
stupid. But she's a little bit dumber than Howard is. I mean, she's his talking parrot, right? She's his Uncle Tom. She sits on his shoulder. She tells him he's right all the time. And I think was it you that's saying, Arm, that you think that she's just, maybe it was Monique, who was saying that she thinks she's just totally in love with Howard and always has been.
Yeah, that was Monique that said that.
I've said that
You
too.
know,
I think she has convinced herself, she obviously has mental illness going on there all over the place, but she has convinced herself that she is Howard's true love. She can kind of write off Beth and be friendly with her on the surface because Robin is his love and Beth is just there. But there is something weird. Her father really fucked that woman up.
I'll go as far to say this. And I'm not pushing back, but I'll say this. If Robin ever spent significant time around Howard off the air, she would hate his guts in 15 minutes. It would never go long. When she realizes how sequestered and how helpless he is, if she saw him in his real habitat, she would hate his fucking guts as much as we do.
I also
What do you
think
think about
her obsession with Howard is another reason that she had the issue with Emily about the party.
Yeah, I love that clip. I cherish that clip I have.
Zoo, zoo.
So it was when
zoo.
Sarah, we think that the issue was Emily was not invited to plan Howard's party, and she was cut out of the engagement party to Beth because they knew that she hated Beth.
Because Robin is the wife, and it's her
Yep.
duty to plan the party.
That's right.
And insert herself way too far into the mix.
And didn't Robin do that?
Go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say, didn't Robin do that with Howard's first wife also, right? Like,
yes.
It was kind of like the three of them all the time. Every time Robin had a problem, she called Howard's wife, and they had to sort of, settle it for her or whatever.
Robin was very close with Allison for a long time. Yeah, Robin was very close with Allison for a long time. That's probably what pissed Emily off as well, because you just dropped your friend for this. Why? Why can't you? It was just a mess. I mean, Beth, not effectively, not essentially, she home wrecked Emily's life. She broke up her parents. Why should she come around to it? Why would anybody? Why would you? You know what I mean? Why would Jack and Lily Rose Depp ever come around to Amber Heard fully? They broke up your family unit, right? I mean, why should you get over that?
Mm-hmm.
No,
The only time Robin has showed her real feelings toward Beth is when she read the FHM article.
Yeah,
and
that's
laughed
great.
at her the
I
entire
love that
time.
clip. That's a good callback, Sarah.
A lot of rapes that go on that don't get reported. Yeah. And let me tell you something.
Weird comment.
My father.
Howard knows all about the rapes that go on that aren't reported. I mean, he would have to know about them if they're not reported. Howard knows about the rapes, but they're not reported.
Whatever it is. They got some sort of rules over in France that we don't have here. All I know is there's a lot of rapes that go on that don't get reported. Yeah. And let me tell you something. My father fought in World War II, and Gary's father fought in World War II.
Even my father fought in World War II.
Even Robin's horrible father fought in World War II, and he's better.
He tried to liberate.
And he tried to liberate those cowards. God damn it.
She's mad because we say excuse me in a sarcastic way. Well, she's never had to do that because she's never been ignored.
Right. She's got nothing but attention her entire life.
That's a pretty good point. I got to give him that.
Yeah, I can't defend Kate Hudson.
No.
She can.
Not in any way. It's indefensible.
No one pays attention to Kate.
And Johnny Depp's probably the biggest screwball, too, and I don't know, but all I got is her tape.
Well, at least with Johnny Depp, you got to give him credit because he left the country.
Yeah, that's fine.
He did. He lived by his word.
At least he
doesn't
lives
like it.
there.
He doesn't live here.
Yeah, live with the French, and that's really where Kate Hudson should live. Her and
I'll bet you one thing, though.
her and the goddamn Black Crows ought to move there.
If a world war broke out, Johnny Depp would hightail his ass back here.
And I know her husband, Chris. He ought to get her ass in line. Stop being such a pussy. Tell her to shut up.
He probably doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. Well.
Doesn't know whether he's allowed to speak.
Yeah, I think they got him under control.
I forgot about that Chris Robinson couple from Black Crows. I forgot about that. That's
You know
another
what these
Howard
people-
idol.
You know what these people like about living in France? And I heard the guys from U2 saying the same thing. Like when they were living in Ireland, they were just getting harassed constantly, right? And they could go live, especially in the south of France, and they could walk down the street and nobody would say a word to them. You know, like the people there don't care. You can walk by them. It doesn't matter. They're not screaming and yelling. You know, they don't make a scene of it. It's not a thing. They can live a normal life there. And that's probably what Johnny was doing there too, right? Like it's just
No
trying
doubt
to live
about it.
some sort of
doubt about
normal life.
But he's not so ignorant to the fact that's what you signed up for. And I've heard him say it before. You know, you get into this business because you're missing something, an attention thing you're not getting. But you want that attention on your terms, only on your terms. How you want. Howard's the worst there is. I mean, Howard is, no one's worse with the general public than Howard is. I have so many horror stories with it. But Depp wants to go there, like you said, G, for anonymity. But that's what you signed up for. You're in the attention business. And when you get the attention, well, now it's too much. Well, which is it? You want to regulate it? Like you have an attention button that you get to decide how much attention you get and where you get it. You have the privilege to go to France to get it. If that's the only negative, then you've lived a very charmed life 1,000 times over, right? That's the downside. You get more attention. Well, you got into it because you wanted attention in the first place, right? Isn't that why we go into show business?
Mm-hmm.
We're missing something. We
I
need
guess.
attention.
I could never understand the person that stands outside waiting for a glimpse, the person that stands, you know, waiting at the red carpet in LA to watch people walk down a red carpet. I can't even understand watching one of those award shows. So like the adoration that these people receive for being TV stars or movie stars is beyond me. I don't get it.
Isn't that what you did for Jesse Barfield?
Oh yeah, no man, never, right? Not a chance. Like I go to a game, but I wasn't waiting around to catch a glimpse of them when they're leaving, whatever, right? Like even as a kid, I didn't give a shit about that sort of thing. It's just not in me. I don't care. And when somebody dies that I don't know, like okay, say the greatest Blue Jay ever, Roy Halladay, died, right? It didn't affect me at all. I didn't care that he was dead. It didn't sadden me. I don't know the person. He's not a friend of mine. He's not family of mine. And if I don't know somebody and they die, like 1 million people die every day that I don't give a shit about. Just because Roy Halladay was a Blue Jay doesn't mean that I care that he got all stoned and flew his plane into the ocean. Like whatever. It happened. I don't care. Move on. Like that stuff doesn't affect me. Except I guess if Amber died, then I'd be a little sad, right? But
Well, with Sarah and I had this conversation about attractive people. When attractive people die, right? The first thing you hear is somebody go, "Oh my God, she was so beautiful. She was so beautiful. She had so much love. She's so beautiful." So if someone not as good looking as her dies, it's more of a tragedy. You know what I mean? The person who it's amazing how we do that with death, where we do this thing where if you're famous or good looking, the death is way more of a blow.
Well, that's what I hate about TV and movies now is that you're seeing a lot more average to ugly people because they're trying to spread it out. If I want average to ugly people, I can open my door and look at people walking down the street, and I can guarantee you they're pretty ugly. I don't want ugly people in movies and TVs. I want them to be beautiful. I want to look at that, but that's just me, right?
But if you're trying to portray real life, you can't have everybody,
But it's movies and TVs. It's not real life, man.
But if you're portraying real life, you go for it. It doesn't. It's the most attractive people are not necessarily the biggest movie stars. If you really think about it, right? I mean, there's some. Is Meryl Streep the most attractive?
Oof,
but she's the biggest movie star.
You
it
think
doesn't
so?
make sense. It doesn't.
I can't even think of a movie I've seen with her in it, man.
Oh, she's
not one. I can't even think of her. And I've never.
You're not the one to go to for the movie IMDb.
Yeah, I'm not going
ketchup. Right. We order ketchup. I mean, I can't tell you the privileges this broad's gotten from being born in this country, rich. And you know what? I'm all for it. Love capitalism. Congratulate Goldie Hawn on the success of her career. There's a million people out there
And does Johnny
trying.
Depp not accept money for movies?
He sure does.
Money's okay when it's coming that way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you, Chauncey.
By the way, Howard.
Yes.
It's kind of funny. You look younger now.
Chauncey's about to kiss his ass. When we have him on, I
Of
can't
course,
wait
you
to play
have
this
to.
one.
You have to.
We got to save that for Chauncey. He's about to kiss Howard's ass in a way that I don't want to subject people to. We have to play that for Chauncey. Right from there, he will put a gun in his mouth in Ireland when he does. Anyway, I want to thank G Canada for joining us tonight. G Canada, any hashtag last words you want to leave us?
You know what? I just want to thank you and Miss Sarah for putting on the show. And I tell you, during the trial, Arm, you were unbelievable. Every day, you were a warrior, man. It was great entertainment. You know, I didn't really know much about it before then, but I couldn't stop listening to it when you were doing the trial. So
Thank you. That's a great compliment.
thanks a lot.
Great,
And
you did a
thanks,
great
Miss
job.
Sarah, for having me on.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
Have a good night.
Any hashtag last words, G Canada?
Nah, I'm good, man. Everybody knows my bullshit.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Come back again when we find a topic that's up to your. I mean,
The best
I know
part
that-
is everybody understands I don't care now. You know, like it's
Right.
just bullshit. I really don't give a shit. Maybe Melvin can't get that through his head, but you know, I know
He's like-
I know
he's
that
there to know.
I know that Rodney could finally maybe put it to rest, and he won't hate me so much now because I don't really give a shit about Amber, right?
So this is Arm for Sarah and G Canada saying.
He sings.
No
I'm out.
time. I'm not. No time is a good time for goodbyes. And rest in peace, Kevin Conroy, my only Batman. Mr. Feeney wants to really say goodbye.
Oh, no.
Sit down. Stay where you are. For the first time, I choose to walk out on you.